Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto leaves Konoha to find new life home and new life for himself. Part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. Nearly a week had passed since the retrieval mission for Sasuke Uchiha had failed and everyone that was on that mission nearly died. Tsunade, also known as the fifth Hokage, was sitting at her desk reading the report written by Shikamaru Nara, the team leader of the mission. She was in shock as she had read the report to find out that the 4 Genin and 1 Chunin were able to beat 5 highly skilled ninja with the help of Gaara and his brother and sister, of course. Sitting at her desk in shock, Tsunade leaned back against her chair and looked up at the ceiling, lost in her thoughts. At least they're not blaming the team for the failure of that mission. We're lucky that they even survived, thought Tsunade as she remembered when the team was brought back from their mission. Flashback, Tsunade was at her staring out her window lost in thought when Shizune had entered her office and told her that Shikamaru, Neji, Chaoji, Kiba and Rock Lee were being taken to the hospital. They both instantly got up and left the office, heading straight to the hospital. Once they had gotten to the hospital, she had seen the 4 Genin in horrible shape. The moment she looked at them, she could tell that it wasn't going to be easy to heal their wounds. I need every medic nin available now. I don't care what they're doing, I also want the surgery room open as well, said Tsunade as several medic nins had rushed to the Genin's bodies. Wait, where is Naruto? Why isn't Naruto here? She said aloud, but as soon as the words came out of her mouth, the hospital doors burst open as Kakashi had crushed at Tsunade with an injured Naruto on his back. The instant she had looked at Naruto, she noticed the 2 holes that his jacket had. She already had an idea as to what caused the damage Naruto received. Soon a medic nin had come with a stretcher and Kakashi gently set Naruto on it and the medic rushed Naruto to the emergency room. Kakashi, tell me what happened, she asked him as he found himself staring at the floor. I was too late, Lady Tsunade. By the time I arrived, all I saw was the damage that was done to the area, he told her as he balled up a fist. I saw Naruto on the ground barely breathing. When I picked him up, I noticed the holes he had on his jacket. Once I saw that, I already knew what caused it, said Kakashi as he fell on his knees due to all the energy he spent trying to get Naruto to the hospital. Kakashi, said Tsunade as she looked at him, kneeling down beside him. She could see the shame written in his eye. Sasuke used my own technique to try and kill him. I didn't think that he would have gone that far, said Kakashi as he punched the floor as hard as he could, causing the tiles to crack into pieces. As Tsunade looked at him, she knew anything she told him at the moment wouldn't help him. But at least she knew that he was a strong ninja. Actually, he was one of the best in the village. She had also known about the pain he went through with the loss of his teammates and sensei. And seeing how he was at this moment, she decided it was best to leave him alone while she tended to Naruto and the others. Then flashback, Tsunade then leaned forward and grabbed the report that Naruto had given her yesterday. Since the Kyuubi had healed the life-threatening injuries, Naruto was able to leave the hospital quickly. As she read the report, she had learned that Naruto apparently used enough of the fox's chakra for it to become visible, while Sasuke had used the second stage of the curse mark, just as his escorts had used in their fights against the other members of the retrieval team. The thought of Naruto under the fox's influence fighting Sasuke under the curse mark's influence actually made Tsunade nervous. She did not even want to imagine a fight between 2 shinobi using such foul chakra. There were other details that worried her too. The main one was that his best friend had used the Chidori, a high-level assassination jutsu, on him. She knew how that technique had worked and how many people had died by the technique, but what had surprised her was the fact that Naruto managed to get hit more than once and live. And that ties into this, it seems, Tsunade thought as she put Naruto's report to the side and looked down at the message once again. She mentally cursed at the fact that the advisors had access to the mission reports. The message was quite simple. The advisors were suggesting that the entire retrieval team be given mental evaluations to ensure that they were all stable and fit for the life and duty of a shinobi. Tsunade knew the truth though. The advisors were not concerned about the mental stability of Shikamaru Nara, Choji Akimichi, Kiba Inuzuka, Neji Hyuga, or even Rock Lee. They wanted to see if the Jinchuriki of the 9-tailed demon fox was mentally stable. Now that their mental stability has been called into question, I'm going to have to order the evaluations to be done, thought Tsunade. She hoped that she didn't have to order the evaluations, but she knew that they would be able to force the issue if she did not order the evaluations to be done. With the support of the clan heads and the Jounin commander, the advisors would be able to overturn the Hokage's vote. Grandfather wanted to make sure that the Hokage could not actually become all-powerful. Grandma said that she feared someone would one day become Hokage that did not believe in the will of fire, Tsunade thought with a heavy sigh. She knew that the advisors would gain the support of all of the clan heads and the Jounin commander if she refused to order the mental evaluations. It was the logical thing to do, after all. Despite the fact that it was, indeed, a logical response to the mission, Tsunade had a feeling that it would go very badly for Naruto. I guess the only thing I can do is hope, Tsunade thought sadly as she removed 6 pieces of paper from her desk drawer and began to write notes to each member of the retrieval team. She included one to Lee due to the fact that he had ended up aiding in the mission, despite the fact that he had not even been cleared for duty. Once she wrote all 6 of those notes, she withdrew 2 more pieces of paper from the desk drawer. She proceeded to write one note to Inoichi Yamanaka and one to the advisors. Upon finishing those final 2 notes, she put each of the combined 8 notes in envelopes and addressed them. She then made a hand gesture, which caused 2 members of the Anbu Black Ops to appear before her. "Nico, I need you to take these 6 messages to their intended recipients," Tsunade said, handing the notes that were addressed to the retrieval team to the purple-haired Kunoichi. Once they were taken by the aforementioned Anbu, Tsunade handed the final 2 to the brown-haired male. "Take the one addressed to the Yamanaka clan, head straight to him. I want the note to the advisors left in their joint office downstairs." With that, Nico and Tenzo disappeared, leaving Tsunade alone in her office again. "And now, we wait," Tsunade said with one final sigh of the night. In 12 hours, the mental evaluations would begin. A thought crossed her mind at that point, causing her to smile briefly in amusement. Naruto would be very annoyed as soon as Nico gave him the note. He had just gotten out of the hospital, and it seemed that he would have to return the next day to have a session with Inoichi. Oh yes, she would be incredibly annoyed as a result of that. Some time later at the Yamanaka residence, "Do you have a message for me?" Inoichi Yamanaka asked, glancing at the doorway of his study the instant a new chakra signature appeared. He was one of the best censors in the village, so it was unlikely that anyone would be able to sneak up on him. Unless the man was distracted, naturally of course. "Lady Hokage asked me to present this to you," Tenzo said as he approached the Yamanaka. Inoichi's study was exactly as one would imagine a study to look. The walls were lined with bookshelves, and the only actual furniture in the room consisted of a comfortable chair and a desk. It was brightly lit too, which one would expect from the owner of the most successful flower shop in the village. While Tenzo took note of his surroundings, Inoichi seemed to have something on his mind. "That's strange. Why would Lady Hokage send me a message so late at night? I never leave the village to go on missions, and if I was needed for an important interrogation, then the note would be from Ibiki," Inoichi thought. Breaking away from his thoughts, Inoichi took the note and began to remove it from the envelope. By the time the note was out of the envelope and unfolded, Tenzo had already left the estate. Inoichi did not notice though. He had already begun to read the note. "Inoichi Yamanaka, I am in need of assistance from the Yamanaka clan. As the head of your clan, I trust that you can provide the assistance that I need. In short, I am ordering mental evaluations to be done on the team that went to retrieve Sasuke. The evaluations will be to determine if the members of the team are mentally stable and fit for the duties and responsibilities of shinobi of the Hidden Leaf Village. I'm sure you can guess why I need these evaluations done, seeing as your best friend's sons took part in the mission. The shinobi that I need evaluated are Shikamaru Nara, Choji Akimichi, Kiba Inuzuka, Niji Hyuga, Rock Lee, and Naruto Uzumaki. You may use any means necessary to evaluate them. I understand that it is much quicker to use your mind jutsu to evaluate one of your patients. If at all possible, I would like you to be the one that evaluates Naruto Uzumaki's mental stability. I have 2 reasons for this request. The first is because I trust you more than any other Yamanaka. The second is because Naruto needs to be handled very carefully. I'm sure that you can imagine why. For the others, you are free to delegate the tasks of the evaluations as you see fit. Keep in mind that Choji Akimichi and Niji Hyuga have yet to be released from the hospital. They are close enough to being released that the evaluations may be done without worry though. Now, I leave the rest up to you. If you have any questions, contact me tomorrow morning. Oh, and I already sent messages to them to tell them about the evaluations. They will be at the hospital at 8 in the morning. Thank you for your time." Tsunade Senju Inoichi took a deep breath as he finished reading the note. It was not exactly what he was expecting, but it was perfectly doable. He immediately went to the task of finding the shinobi to perform the evaluations. He had already decided that he would only have 2 helpers in the task. He was certain that Shikamaru and Choji were mentally stable, so he would have one of his subordinates do a standard mental evaluation on them. He would have the same person evaluate Niji due to the fact that the young Hyuga prodigy had recently undergone thorough mental evaluations from his cousin, Santa Yamanaka. Speaking of Santa, I'll have him evaluate Kiba Inuzuka and Rock Lee. I don't even want to see what's inside the mind of Mike Guy's favorite student. That would give me nightmares for a few months at the very least, Inoichi thought. He was exaggerating in his thoughts about the nightmares, in all actuality. He was perfectly capable of sealing away any of his memories that were too frightening. He actually forgot who Guy was as a result of that, but that had been back when he had first met the green spandex wearing shinobi. Inoichi rose from his chair at that point and headed to the basement of his home. It seemed prudent that he look over the files of each of the young shinobi. Well, he thought it also was very prudent that he looked over the files of the ones that had actually undergone mental evaluations before. It would not be learned until much, much later that on that fateful night, Tsunade and Inoichi had not been anywhere near as alone or unwatched as they had believed. It was actually relatively amazing what an elder shinobi could do with a crystal ball, after all. The ghost of a smile appeared on the face of a man that had not really smiled since his youth as he deactivated the crystal ball. It looks like they are playing right into my hands. Princess Tsunade should really learn to keep an eye on all of the players, not just the ones that are being obvious. She was never much of a politician, or she would have known that Danzo Shimura thought from his base underneath the Hidden Leaf Village. Oh yes, he was indeed a player on the board. Being the true shinobi that he was, few people would ever know that he even struck. The darkness of shinobi indeed. You may enter. Tsunade said as she heard knocking at the door of her office. Inoichi Yamanaka entered immediately, and the look on his face did not promise good news in the slightest. The 6 files that he held in his hands hinted at the subject that brought him there. I take it that you have completed the evaluations? Tsunade asked, glancing at the clock. It was almost 1 in the afternoon. She saw him nod. Shut the door and take a seat. Then, you can tell me about it. Following her orders, Inoichi soon found himself sitting across the desk from Tsunade. Clearing his throat, he said, first, we have Shikamaru Nara. Upon reaching Chunin, he was required to undergo a mental evaluation. Since conducting his last one, we have more recent data to work with. As he said that, Inoichi placed a file on Tsunade's desk. Opening the file and studying it over carefully, the Hokage's eyes widened. He's more stable now than he was a month ago. Inoichi nodded. It seems that the failed mission provided him with an increase in maturity and stability. He is perfectly stable and sane. He's even lazier than I expected though. His evaluator made specific notes about that. Tsunade nodded before she shut the file. The laziness was hardly unexpected. He was a member of the Nara clan after all. The moment that it was shut, a new file was placed on her desk. Opening it, she saw that it was Chaoji's evaluation. As expected from an Akamichi, Chaoji is as stable as they come. The only hint of instability is a berserk button that my associate discovered. Apparently the word fat is taboo around him. Like Shikamaru, he's perfectly stable and fit for the responsibilities of his position. Inoichi concluded as he picked the next file from the stack and gave it to Tsunade. Shutting Chaoji's file and taking the new file that Inoichi offered, Tsunade realized that the third evaluation was over Niji. Similar to Shikamaru, his file contained multiple evaluations. It actually contained 17 evaluations, which would have surprised her under normal circumstances. It did not at that moment though. She knew that Niji Hyuga had experienced great trauma due to his father's death, along with the usual trauma that a sealed Hyuga experienced growing up. The first time that Niji was evaluated, he was mentally unstable enough that he was unfit for the duties and responsibilities as a shinobi. Every evaluation after that was better than the one before it though. He is currently even more stable than Chaoji is. I suspect that learning the truth about his father had something to do with the increase in stability. Inoichi explained. That's good to know. Tsunade thought. She shut the file at that point, readily accepting the 4th file. She was not surprised when she saw that it was not Naruto's file. It seemed that he was saving that one for last. Kiba Inuzuka was one of the 2 genin that my cousin Santa Yamanaka evaluated. The evaluation is not very detailed at all due to the difficulties in evaluating a member of the Inuzuka clan. The simple answer in regards to Kiba is that he is as mentally stable as a member of the Inuzuka clan can be. Inoichi said. He then handed Tsunade the second to last file. Tsunade shuddered upon looking inside the new file. It was Rock Lee's file. As much as it worries me to say this, Lee is perfectly stable. Inoichi said, shocking Tsunade. Though Lee is eccentric, he is actually quite stable. He's as stable as Niji Hyuga at any rate. He replied. I don't want to ask any more about him. Tsunade said as she closed the file and stacked it with the other 4 files. Now, I want to hear about Naruto's evaluation. She asked. Inoichi hesitantly handed Tsunade Naruto's file and said, Lady Hokage, I regret to inform you that Naruto Uzumaki is mentally unstable and unfit for the duties and responsibilities of a shinobi of the Hidden Leaf Village. It is my recommendation that Naruto be stripped of his rank and removed from the ninja corps for no less than 2 years, after which he could be required to be re-evaluated, said Inoichi. That had Tsunade's attention and anger. She could not believe that Inoichi had said that. It was even worse that the file matched his assessment perfectly. You've got to be kidding me. What do you mean by that? Tsunade asked in anger. Naruto Uzumaki suffered a traumatic childhood of isolation. He never had a family of any kind, and he was never taught the things a parent would teach a child. The stunted development as a result of all that has caused him a certain degree of mental instability. The impact of learning what he carries inside him, using its chakra, and fighting his best friend in what was nearly a death match, has worsened his mental instability to dangerous levels. As it is, I fear for our village if he remains a shinobi. As a Jinchuriki, his instability is far more dangerous than that of a normal shinobi. Inoichi answered, not backing down in the slightest. Tsunade closed her eyes as she thought about everything that Inoichi said. She barely held back the tears at the realization that Inoichi was correct. He would not have given that assessment to her if he had not believed that it was 100% accurate. I hope you can forgive me, Naruto, she thought. As she already imagined how he'd take the news. You may leave now, Inoichi. Tsunade said, surprising him. I cannot refuse your recommendation, especially not when it was given as a result of my own orders. Following the laws that my grandfather set forth, I have no choice but to go through with the recommendation. I will inform Naruto myself. Tsunade said. She felt a small part of herself die on the inside just by speaking those words. As soon as Inoichi was gone, Tsunade sent one of her Anbu bodyguards to escort Naruto there. After a few minutes the door opened. Hey Granny Tsunade, did you need something? And can we hurry this up? I was just about to head out for some ramen, said Naruto as he closed the door behind him. Tsunade looked at him for a moment. She couldn't believe what she was gonna do to the young blonde in front of her. Naruto, sit down. Tsunade said sadly as she looked at him with such sadness in her eyes. Naruto didn't know why, but he felt noticeably nervous. No one ever asked him to sit down when they were delivering good news, after all. Nonetheless, he sat down in the chair across from Tsunade without question. Naruto, I need to talk to you about the mental evaluation that Inoichi Yamanaka performed on you earlier today. Tsunade said. Why do you want to talk about that? He said that he'd tell you all about it. Naruto asked. It was clear at that moment that he was not aware of the actual results of the evaluation. She was not surprised though. That was not the type of thing Inoichi would have felt comfortable telling Naruto about. Tsunade took a deep breath before she uttered the worst possible news ever to him. Naruto, your evaluation showed that you are mentally unstable and unfit for the duties and responsibilities of a shinobi of the Hidden Leaf Village. It has been recommended that you be stripped of your status as a shinobi of the Hidden Leaf Village for a period of no less than 2 years. After those 2 years are up, you can undergo another mental evaluation. If, at that time, you are found to be stable and fit for the duty of a shinobi of this village, then you will be made a genin again. I am sorry, but I am going through with this recommendation. Said Tsunade as she soon saw the blonde's reaction to the news. As for Naruto, he was astonished. He couldn't believe at what she had just told him. His dream to become Hokage, the promises he made to Neji and Sakura and all the others as well, had just shattered. Naruto felt like Sasuke had just shoved another 2 Chidoris into his body, if not worse. After a few seconds Naruto put his head down, trying to hold all his tears in. You're telling me that I'm kicked out of the ninja crops on the grounds of mental instability, which means I will never be able to be Hokage, and you're telling me that you're sorry. After everything I've done for the village, this is what I deserve, he said, as he rose to his feet so fast that his chair fell backwards. I'm sorry Naruto, I don't have a choice. This is what has to be done. After everything that you've been though, and everything that has happened recently, the village thinks that this is for the best, said Tsunade as she tried to keep it all together. You're fucking sorry. After everything I've done, after all the bullshit I went through to help this fucking village, this is how it repays me, said Naruto in a very angry voice. Naruto, you have to understand I didn't want to do this, but I have to, for the sake of the village. We can't allow you to be a ninja, please understand, said Tsunade. Understand what? You took my dream, the only thing I had, it was the only thing that kept me sane. After all the beatings, the names, the looks, being Hokage was everything to me, and you crushed that, and you're sorry for that. He said, even angrier than before, but just before Tsunade was gonna speak, Naruto turned around and untied his headband and muttered the words, I hope this village burns, as he kicked the door open and exited the Hokage manor. The last Senju was visibly shaking as the tears slowly fell from her eyes. I'm so sorry, Naruto. As Naruto walked back to his apartment, he still couldn't believe what happened. He had so many mixed feelings of anger, sadness, pitiful, depressed and so much more. He personally never considered the possibility that he would be considered mentally unstable though. It was not exactly common for a shinobi to be declared unstable enough to warrant removal from the ninja corps, after all. And what hurt the most was the fact that even if the 2-year period, anyone that was removed from the ninja corps due to mental instability was ineligible for the position of Hokage at any point in their lifetime. After some time he finally arrived to his apartment. He sadly entered his apartment and quickly closed the door. He then went to his room, not even bothering to change his clothes. He laid on the bed looking at the ceiling. Naruto was certain of one thing at this moment: he truly did hate Tsunade. That was the only way he could describe his feelings towards her at that moment. She had betrayed him in the most unimaginable way. Sure, he might not have been banished or anything, but he suspected that such an action would have been less cruel. Soon tears went down his face as he tried to sleep, but it was no use for him. It truly the worst day of his young life. Waikasen. At the memorial stone. As Naruto was crying himself to sleep, Kakashi was standing in front of the memorial stone near the 3rd training ground. Kakashi kept looking at his best friend's name on the stone. Naruto had reminded him about Obito so much. At this moment that wasn't the only thing he was thinking about. He had been headed to talk to Tsunade a short while ago about the arrangements of Jiraiya taking Naruto away from the village on the training trip that had been planned. Consequently, Kakashi had just passed Naruto when he went up the stairs. He noticed the sad and angry look that Naruto had as he passed him. So when Kakashi went to the office he had noticed the door was on the floor. He then saw the saddened face of Tsunade as he entered. After that Tsunade told him everything that had happened and what Naruto had told her. If I had been in his position, I would have said worse, much worse. Kakashi thought. Kakashi did not agree with Tsunade's actions in the slightest. He believed that Inoichi Yamanaka's assessment was clearly wrong as well. He was Naruto's sensei and knew him better than anyone alive. There was no way that Naruto was mentally unstable. Well, there was no way that he was mentally unstable enough to warrant removal from the ninja corps, at least. There's something going on here that I know for sure. Naruto couldn't have failed that mental exam. Inoichi knows how hard Naruto life's been, and he know how Naruto can be, so why fail him, Kakashi thought. It wasn't that he did not trust Inoichi, but something was amiss, he just wasn't sure what. He did not like the prospect of anything going on that he was incapable of seeing, either. Having the Sharingan made him used to being able to see through anything, including ninjutsu, genjutsu, taijutsu, and deception. But one thing was for certain to Kakashi at that moment though. I need to get a message to Lord Jiraiya, Kakashi thought as he looked towards the horizon. If my plan is to work, I'll need some help. His eyes went back to the memorial stone the second after those thoughts passed. His eyes immediately went to the name of his sensei with a practiced eye. Very few people could locate a name on the stone without a second thought, and Kakashi was one of them. No one spent more time at the stone than he, after all. Minato-sensei, Kushina, what would you have done if you were here to see this? Thought Kakashi as the image on his sensei and his wife came into his mind as he rushed over the horizon. It's been exactly 2 weeks since Naruto had gotten the news that he was kicked out of the ninja crops and his dream of becoming Hokage was crushed. Since then Naruto had stayed in his room. He tried to go to the training grounds to release some anger, but just as he arrived the gate guards had stopped him. They even bring out a few kunai to show that they were serious. It seemed that the Hokage had given orders to prevent him from leaving. It was now 10 o'clock in the morning on the 10th of October, his 13th birthday. Naruto had hoped at least some of his friends would have at least visited, but no one had showed, but in a way he was thankful that his only visitors had been Iruka Yamino and Sakura Haruno. Even though he was thankful for that least, he hated the fact that every time he saw Sakura, he felt that he had let her down completely at the same time. He could not face her after he realized that he would most likely never be able to bring Sasuke back. Sakura had told him plenty of times that it was alright and that he tried his best. But Naruto knew that was a lie. He could see the sadness and anger that she held in that alone made Naruto feel even worse. Naruto then remembered a third visitor that he had. It was Konoha Sarutobi. Apparently the young Sarutobi had not cared what anyone thought and had no problem going to see the unstable demon. Naruto also couldn't help but laugh a bit when Konohamaru had told him that he was gonna be the 6th Hokage for him. Naruto was happy that someone would keep his dream alive. But after 3 visits from Iruka, 2 from Sakura, and 2 from Konohamaru, Naruto felt another great source of pain. Despite those visits, none of his other classmates were coming to see him. Kakashi had not visited him either, but he heard that Kakashi was busy with missions. His classmates were apparently only doing D-rank missions though. He remembered Sakura telling him that Hinata tried to visit him, but every time she got even near his apartment, the guards told her to go away. And to make matters worse for her father demanded that Naruto stay under house arrest until he was mentally stable. And what was even worse was the fact that Tsunade had agreed to it, so Naruto wasn't even able to leave his own house. Glancing back at the clock, Naruto saw that he had been lost in his thoughts for a little over 20 minutes. It's not like I have anything better to do, seeing as I can't train, and I can't even leave my own freaking house. I might as well sew some push-ups or something, just in case the villagers de-ice that. I'm better off dead than just staying here, thought Naruto as he began to exercise. After 2 hours had passed, it was a little bit past noon. Naruto was surprised as the air before him shimmered as he turned around and saw his teacher Kakashi had entered the apartment. Hey Naruto, still training I see, said Kakashi said casually. Though he spoke casually, there was no doubt by the look in his visible eye that he was not his usual carefree self. The man standing before him was the copy ninja, not the carefree man that read erotica in public. Kakashi-sensei, what the hell are you doing here? I thought you'd be on a mission or something, said Naruto in a surprised voice. He was so surprised to see his ex-teacher that if he had not been caught off guard, then he would have stopped himself from using the suffix with Kakashi's name. He was not required to address Kakashi as his sensei, after all. I came to see my favorite student. After all, it is your birthday today. I'd have been here sooner, but I've been busy, Kakashi said as he flipped the light switch, momentarily blinding Naruto. It also took a little bit to get all 4 of your Anbu watchers with my Sharingan. I'd hate for them to report that I dropped by. he said as he looked at his student. What are you talking about? Naruto asked. The prospect of Anbu watchers made him worried. The Hokage has assigned a team from the Anbu Black Ops to watch you. She wants to make sure that you don't commit harakiri or run off, I guess. That's just a guess though. We haven't talked about you in our occasionally conversations. Kakashi replied. Anyways, I have incapacitated all of your watchers for the next 24 hours using my Sharingan. They won't remember a thing either, so we're both in the clear for today. That last part truly got Naruto's interest. His words kept Naruto's curiosity active. Kakashi-sensei, what are we both in the clear for? Naruto asked. Well, you'll be happy to know that you're not the only one who didn't like the Hokage's decision. I cannot stand by and let her treat you like this, Naruto, and I'm not the type of guy to ever abandon my students, after all. Kakashi said. He then let out an exasperated sigh. At the same time, I know that it would be impossible to get her to revoke your removal from the ninja corps. If it was possible, Iruka would have already done so. I hear that he's tried. He said in a calm voice. Naruto felt a warm feeling inside at the thought of his Chunin-sensei and Jounin-sensei doing what they could to help him. It did not lessen the anguish at everything else that had happened, but it did make it easier to bear. But Naruto, I'm just not here to chit-chat, I need to ask you a question as well, said Kakashi in a serious voice. Ask me what? Replied Naruto. Now that you're no longer a ninja in this village, you have an obligation to it anymore, but do you want to continue on the path you are currently on? Kakashi asked in a voice that stressed the seriousness of the situation. As for Naruto, thinking back to the even more numerous looks of hostility that he received in addition to the numerous people of the village that ignored and avoided him when they could, Naruto shook his head. He had no doubt that he would eventually pull Yagura and kill everyone on sight if he continued to live such an existence. Naruto, I've been in contact with Lord Jiraiya. We've come up with the only option that will get you away from all of this. You're going to have to do a lot of work if you agree with this plan, and you will have to completely start over if you agree to it, and if you choose to go. Lord Jiraiya told me to give you this, said Kakashi, as he gave Naruto a scroll. What's this? Asked Naruto before he replied to Kakashi's question. He didn't tell me what it was for, he just told me to give it to you, and he also said that once you leave he'll try to contact you again as soon as he can. So what's your answer? Naruto said, Kakashi waiting for a reply. What's the plan? Said Naruto without hesitation. As he quickly grabbed his backpack and gathered a few of his belongings. To put it simply, all you would have to do is leave the land of fire. Much like the retrieval team could not chase after Sasuke once he crossed the border. Kakashi said, making Naruto look even more confused. What's wrong? He said as he noticed had Naruto stopped packing his things in his backpack. The gate guard stopped me every time I try to go outside of the village to train. Naruto explained. That's true, but there aren't any guards at night. At this moment the only person they don't want to leave is you, and there are two things that would normally prevent you from simply walking out at night. The first is the Anbu watchers that I've already incapacitated. The second is a special barrier ninjutsu that surrounds the village. I made a seal that will allow you to walk through the barrier without alerting anyone though. I know the codes to the barrier from my time in Anbu, so integrating them in a seal was easy enough. Kakashi countered. And before you ask, the reason that the barrier would detect you when it did not detect Sasuke is because the barrier has recently been set to alert the barrier team if your chakra makes contact with it. This seal will override the alerts though, so no one will know that you left until your Anbu watchers wake up. Said Kakashi as he finished explaining this plan. As he finished saying that, Kakashi handed him a highly detailed seal on a slip of paper. As long as you have the seal in your possession, you will be able to pass through the barrier undetected. Please destroy the seal once you are out of the land of fire. That is the only illegal thing I'm doing to help you get out of here. If you destroy it, there will be no proof that I aided you. You seem sure that I'm going to leave. Naruto said as he looked at the seal. And you aren't? Kakashi asked, thought it sounded more amused than curious. Of course I am, but that's not the point. Naruto said as he looked up from the seal at Kakashi. So how am I actually going to get out of the village? I still have to make it to the gates without being seen, which is easier said than done. That's why I brought this. Kakashi said as he removed a scroll from his hip pouch and gave it to Naruto. I acquired some new clothes for you. They're actually more to help you get out of the land of fire without attracting attention than anything, though. To actually get outside of the village, I recommend that you do something a bit more ninja. I'm sure you know what I mean. Surprisingly, Naruto caught the hint and managed a small smile at the idea. Thank you, Kakashi-sensei. Said Naruto as he looked at his former teacher. I meant what I said earlier. I'd never abandon my students, but before we begin there's something else I have to tell you, and I want you to promise me one thing. Kakashi said, glancing back at Naruto. What is it? Naruto asked. Well, the first thing I have to tell you is about your parents. I was hoping to tell this when you were older, but seeing as the Hokage Council ruined that, I see no point in hiding it anymore, said Kakashi as he looked at Naruto. My parents, you knew them. What were their names? Asked Naruto as he dropped everything and looked at Kakashi. Your father's name is Minato Namikaze. You knew him as the fourth Hokage, the man who sealed the Kyuubi inside you. As for your mother, her name was Kushina Uzumaki. She was a kunoichi who lived at the Whirlpool village, but when it got destroyed, she was sent here to live, said Kakashi as he noticed Naruto's eyes widen. But why wasn't I told this sooner? Is the village hiding anything else from me? Said Naruto, feeling that the village he cared so much about would hide so much from him. It was because of the third's law. If anyone knew you were Minato Sensei's son, many countries would have tried and killed you, maybe even worse. Lord Third didn't want that to happen, so after the death of your parents, it was decided that you would get your mother's maiden name Uzumaki. That way no one would have guessed your connection to the fourth. I'm sorry for not telling you this sooner, Naruto, but it was one of the main reasons why I wanted to be your teacher. From the very first moment I saw you, you remind me so much of your father. I hope you can forgive me, said Kakashi as he put a hand on Naruto's shoulder. Naruto then smiled before answering. Don't worry Kakashi, I forgive you, but at least I know their names though, and I was proud to have been your student. But what was the other thing you told me to promise you, said Naruto. I want you to promise me that you'll try to be happy. A miserable life isn't much better than death, after all. Kakashi said. I promise. Said Naruto as Kakashi nodded his head before the silver-haired Jounin was now nowhere in sight. 10 hours later, Naruto had not been visited by anyone else, but that had been a good thing, apparently. He had spent the entire time packing what he wanted to take care with him and had sealed his belongings in some of the scrolls he owned. By the time 10 o'clock rolled around, Naruto's apartment was void of his belongings. As soon as someone entered, it would be clear to them that Naruto was no longer staying there. The only actual personal effect that Naruto left behind were a few pair of clothes that he owned. He decided to take the clothes that Iruka had given him a few months back, since he hadn't actually worn them, it would be harder for them to track him. And secondly because he had decided against it as soon as he realized that Tsunade had his forehead protector, which would have enough of his scent on it to help them find him. Shaking his head from all thoughts of being tracked, Naruto glanced down at his new attire. He had to admit that he liked it, and it was rather comfortable. No longer wearing a trace of orange, Naruto looked as though he could blend in with the darkness of night perfectly. He wore black sandals, black pants, and a short-sleeved black shirt. Normally, his hair would have made stealth a bit difficult since it was golden blonde, but the black hooded cloak in his right hand would take care of that. Putting the cloak on, Naruto approached the window of his apartment and opened it about a foot. He then formed the ram hand sign. Transformation jutsu, he whispered. In an instant, Naruto was replaced by average-sized black cat. It was at that moment that Naruto was thankful that the transformation jutsu allowed its user to actually turn into something or someone else. He had used it in such a way to turn into a windmill shuriken in their initial fight with Zabuza, and it was coming in handy once again. The black cat walking down the street would not attract attention in the Hidden Leaf village. The only possible ways for the disguise to fail at his task were for a dog to chase him or for a sensor-type shinobi to detect him. Naruto had to admit that being a cat was a great bit different than being a human. Walking on four legs was not exactly easy to do. He had practiced it recently though. He had known that he would need to hurry if he was to not attract attention. The odds of a sensor type discovering him would grow by the minute. Leaping into the windowsill, Naruto looked down at the street. Seeing that there was no one in the street, the muscles of his legs tensed and he leapt down to the street. Landing as only a cat or a ninja could land, Naruto made contact with the ground and continued to walk towards the village gates. Quickly realizing that he would appear suspicious if he walked down the middle of the street, Naruto moved to the left side of the street and began to move onward. He alternated his speed between a walk and a run, taking occasional detours around buildings. No cat would walk straight up to the gates, after all. Once Naruto reached the gates, he began to run as fast as his cat body could take him away. His speed actually increased once he was outside of the village as a result of his use of chakra in his movements. He had no intention of cancelling his jutsu until he was several miles away. From the top of a building near the gates, Kakashi smiled. I never thought I'd get to see a cat use a chakra-enhanced jump. I must say that it's pretty impressive. Kakashi thought with an inward laugh. Naruto would not know until much later that Kakashi had actually ensured that he came in contact with no one. Relatively few people traveled about that late at night, and using normal jinjutsu on the ones that did to keep them occupied had been relatively easy. Most people thought of Kakashi as a master of ninjutsu, but he was also incredibly proficient at jinjutsu, even without the aid of his Sharingan. I better send a message to Lord Jiraiya telling him that Naruto's already left. His spy network should locate Naruto immediately afterwards, no matter where he decided to go. Kakashi thought. That had been the reason he had not bothered to ask Naruto where he was going to go, among other things. There was also the fact that he did not want Naruto's destination to slip on accident. Though that rarely happened, there was a slim chance that it would. Good luck Naruto, I hope you find happiness wherever you go, after that you are the number one hyperactive knuckled-head ninja, thought Kakashi as he was nowhere to be seen once again. Tsunade was sitting in her office a little past 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 2 weeks after Naruto Uzumaki was removed from the ninja corps of the Hidden Leaf Village. She looked incredibly nervous and stressed out at that moment, which was actually the best way anyone could describe her mood at that moment. It had been very hard on her when she had to remove Naruto from the ninja corps. She had only been following the recommendations and suggestions of someone who knew best about mental instability, but that did not make it any easier on her. Hearing Naruto tell her off and say he hoped the village burns, Tsunade hated herself for crushing the dream of her favorite blonde, and what was worst was that she told some very troubling news a little over an hour ago. The squad of Anbu Black Ops that had been assigned to watch over Naruto had been incapacitated and could not remember anything that had happened since 11 o'clock the previous morning. Oh, and Naruto Uzumaki was no longer inside the village. The Yamanaka clan had verified that his chakra signature was no longer present in the village. Tsunade wasn't showing it, but she was kinda happy when she learned that she already had her suspicions to whom two had helped him, and she knew deep down her heart that this was for the best. But sadly the Anbu weren't so lucky. The entire squad had been dropped from Anbu Black Ops back into the regular ninja corps as a result of their failure. Now that Naruto's gone, I got the privilege to tell the advisors and the clan heads that we are no longer in possession of the nine-tailed demon fox, despite the fact that we've had it in our possession ever since the Valley of the End was formed. Thought Tsunade bitterly. The bitter thoughts were actually a result of the fact that the advisors and clan heads would only care about the loss of the fox and not Naruto. Lady Tsunade, the advisory council and the clan heads have assembled in the conference room downstairs. Shizune said as she entered the office. Her voice sounded slightly more formal than normal. She's still angry at me for agreeing to dismiss Naruto from the ninja corps. Thought Tsunade sadly. Her apprentice had not taken her decision well. The only reason that she had not gone to visit Naruto was because that was not something the Hokage's assistant could do, and that was her job. I might as well go and get this over with, those old farts got nothing else to do but boss me around, said Tsunade as she rose to her feet. Without further words, the two kunoichi walked down the empty hallway, went downstairs, and then walked down that hallway until they reached the first set of doors on their right. Entering the room, Tsunade and Shizune saw that there was a large table in the center of the room, though it lacked decoration of any kind outside of it. Tsunade then took her place at the table while Shizune stood behind. Directly across the table from Tsunade were the advisors. To the Hokage's right and the advisors' left, Hiashi Hyuga and Shibi Aburam were seated. To the Hokage's left and the advisors' right, Asuma Sarutobi and Tsumin Yazuka were seated. Let's begin this meeting now. Tsunade said as she cleared her throat as she was just about to speak until, shouldn't we wait for the clan heads of the Akimichi, Nara and Yamanaka before we begin the meeting, said Hiashi, as the other council members looked at him. Sorry that I didn't inform you of this earlier, but I sent them on a mission before I called this meeting, said Tsunade as everyone's attention was now on her. Why would you send 3 clan heads away on a mission right before you called for a meeting that actually requires them, asked Kanaru, thinking Tsunade had something planned. The reason why I called this meeting was because I was informed that Naruto Uzumaki had managed to escape the eyes of the Anbu Watcher and somehow leave the village without the barrier team being alerted. So in short, Naruto Uzumaki, the Jinchuriki for the nine-tailed fix, is no longer in our possession, and I have gotten no reports on his whereabouts, so I sent Inoichi Yamanaka, Shikaku Nara, Choza Akimichi, and Kakashi Haddock on a mission to retrieve him. It is highly unlikely that it will succeed though. He could have anywhere from a 3-hour lead on us to a 24-hour lead, though I suspect that it is actually closer to a 12-hour lead, said Tsunade as the council members looked stunned at the news. Why did you send Kakashi Haddock on that mission? Surely you could have sent someone better, after all Naruto Uzumaki was his student. What makes you think Kakashi didn't help him in his escape, asked Hamura. There isn't any proof that Kakashi had any help in his escape. Secondly, he is more skilled at tracking than many members of the Inyazuka clan. If I wanted to find someone better than him, I would have had to ask Tsume, but sending 4 clan heads on a mission to get a genin, it seemed like overkill to me, answered Tsunade, hoping that answer satisfied them. Are we actually discussing this, said Asuma as everyone looked at him. I mean seriously, you crushed his hopes and dreams, you strip him of his rank and gave him nothing in return. I mean if I were him I would have done the same. After everything he's done for this village you guys just turned your back on him, said Asuma, as the everyone except Tsunade and Shizune showed any emotion. Don't be a fool, Asuma, shouted Kaharu, he's a Jinchuriki and an unstable one at that. Just think about it, what happens if he goes to another village and they learn about what he is? They could brainwash him and use him as a weapon to destroy us, said Kaharu, as some of the council actually thought about it. Sure, he's a Jinchuriki alright, said Asuma, distaste at the title obvious. That doesn't change the fact that you're all morons. Perhaps you did not see the Jinchuriki of the One Tail or hear the kinds of shit that he did, but I heard it all. He is living proof of why you should have fucking treated Naruto as a human being. I personally hope the mission to retrieve him is a complete failure because he's too good for this place. He almost died trying to bring the Uchiha back as well as the other team members, and this is you repay him. If you ask me, I think it's time we get some new council members, ones without a stick shoved up their ass," said Asuma as both Homura and Kaharu looked at him. But before they could say anything to him, the doors of the conference room opened. And a new voice rang out. "Well," said Asuma, "Sarutobi-sensei would be proud if you were here," said Jiraiya as the doors shut behind him. "Jiraiya, this meeting doesn't concern you. This meeting is for the Hokage council member," said Tsunade in a serious voice. "This meeting is over, you and me have to talk." "Tsunade now," said Jiraiya in a very serious voice. Tsunade was surprised at the way he had just spoken to her. Many people didn't know this, but when Jiraiya spoke in a serious manner, it was something to be feared about. "This meeting isn't over. Something has to be done about this. Jiraiya, maybe you could get the Jinchuriki for us. There's no doubt that you couldn't fail that mission," said Kaharu, as Jiraiya looked at her with a pissed off look. Kaharu there right then and there that she better stop talking. "Well, I'm happy to say that the pursuit of Naruto Uzumaki will now be terminated. I called in a favor from the feudal lord of the Land of Fire, and he's agreed since Naruto is not a shinobi of the Hidden Leaf Village and is a citizen, he is under the feudal lord's authority and not that of the Hokage," said Jiraiya as he gave cold looks to Kaharu, Homura and Tsunade. He then took out a scroll and threw it to Asuma. He then began to reading it, confirming what Jiraiya said was true. "It's true, it's got the feudal lord's signature and everything," said Asuma, and he gave it to Kaharu. "This can't be, we need the Jinchuriki," said Kaharu as she read the letter, but then she threw the scroll and stood up. "You're the one that helped him get out of the village, aren't you?" Kaharu accused. "If I did, then I would have simply had the toads reverse summon him to Mount Maiboku. In that case, you would be unable to track him at all," Jiraiya replied, not even glancing at the advisor as he spoke. His eyes were focused on Tsunade still. "And you, Tsunade, read up on the laws next time you remove someone from the ninja corps. You can't go from being a legal adult back to being a child. It just doesn't work that way," said Jiraiya as he leveled a glare at his Kunoichi teammate. There was no doubt that he was furious at her. "You already know where to meet me," Tsunade said Jiraiya as he looked coldly at her. "Oh, but before I go, I was just going to inform you that information on Akatsuki is no longer the business of this village due to the fact that you don't even have a Jinchuriki, and since I own the spy network of the village, I'm taking that away as well. Goodbye," said as he proofed in smoke, indicating that he was a shadow clone. He sent a shadow clone, thought Tsunade in shock. She was still trying to process everything when Asuma busted up laughing. "What's so funny?" Asuma asked. She would have enjoyed a good laugh. As it was, she was still feeling indifferent to the situation. She did not really know Naruto Uzumaki at all, after all. "You'll figure it out soon enough," Asuma said between fits of laughter. Tsunade understood why he was laughing immediately. The feudal lord had outplayed her and her advisors. In addition to that, she had just lost Jiraiya and his spy network. It was not as if he was an active ninja, after all. But unknown to Tsunade and the council members, they weren't the only ones having a decision about Naruto's escape from the village. "Ijimu, Terai, you three are to begin tracking down Naruto Uzumaki. I want him captured so that the 9 tails may be extracted and placed in one of our own," said Danzo as he looked at 3 of the members of his root organization that specialized in tracking. "You may take 7 subordinates with you to ensure the success of the capture, should you find him," he said. "Yes, Lord Danzo," the 3 members of Root said in sync. They would serve him with their last dying breaths if need be, and they would not show an ounce of emotion the entire time. That was just how Root was though. "What an unexpected turn of events. I did not expect the 9 tails to run from the village, but it actually may make it easier this way," thought Danzo as he felt like his planning was finally coming into realization. "Who would have thought that using my Sharingan on Inoichi would give me a chance to gain the 9 tails? I should have thought of it sooner," thought Danzo as he remembered doing a simple application of his unique Taijutsu before Naruto's evaluation had enabled him to make things seem a little worse than they were, as well as ensuring that Naruto's removal from the ninja corps be recommended. "I should really thank Itachi for killing Shisui one of these days. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have been able to do so," thought Danzo. He wondered how furious Itachi would be at the thought of his best friend's eye being in Danzo's possession. The thought of Itachi furious was actually quite humorous to the old warhawk. One final, 3rd meeting was going on at that moment as well. It was not a physical meeting though. It was more of an astral projection meeting than anything. "We're meeting again. Wow, I thought this never happened," said Deidara sarcastically. The last time Akatsuki had held a meeting had been a few weeks ago, and they had claimed that they had not all met since the time 7 years before when Orochimaru turned on them. "Shut it," said Sasori in annoyance. "If we're having a meeting, then it is because it is very important, why else would we be here for," he said as Deidara turned and looked at him. Bikuzu, Itachi, Kisame, and Konan all stayed quiet at that. "Zetsu, what news do you have to report?" asked Pain looking at the plant-like man. "Naruto Uzumaki, the Jinchuriki of the 9-tailed demon fox, has been removed from the ninja corps as a result of mental instability. He actually left the village sometime last night. It appears that he is headed to the land of waves. Zetsu's black half answered. His white half was being quiet at that moment. We can capture him real easy then. Kisum said as he looked at Itachi. No, we cannot. Pain said, surprising everyone except Zetsu and Konan. He must be sealed last. Capturing him now, as appealing as it is, would be pointless. We would have to watch over him closely to make sure he did not die before we were ready for him. Preventing that and suppressing the fox's chakra every time he tried to escape or grasp would only serve to hinder us. Instead, we will wait and capture him after we have at least 6 of the others sealed. Restraining him while we seal the last few would not be as difficult. I see. Itachi said with a nod. As the meeting continued, the team of Inoichi, Shikaku, Choza, and Kakashi remained unaware that their mission was already a failure, except for Kakashi, who hoped that Naruto had already made it out of the border and was now somewhere safe. But just as that thought went across his mind, Naruto stood at the graves of Zabuza Mamachi and Haku of the Yuki clan in the land of waves. Letting out a yawn, Naruto removed the only blank scroll in his possession from his hip pouch. Once he was done there, he had every intention of going back to Tazuna and Tsunami's house to get some rest before he left the land of waves. It was nice being treated as a hero, but Naruto did not want to stay in any one place for too long without good reason. Once he finished drawing a basic storage seal on the scroll, he walked over to the 2 graves and placed his hands around the hilt of the sword behind the one to the right. Using all of his strength, he pulled Zabuza's sword from the ground and carried it to his prepared scroll. After the mission to the land of waves several months back, Naruto had read up on the 7 ninja swordsmen of the Hidden Mist, and he had learned that all of the swords were incredibly valuable to the Hidden Mist village. From what Naruto had heard, the village had actually lost all of the swords at one point. He was unsure if they had recovered any of them since that particular book had been published, but he was sure that they would pay a large amount for Zabuza's sword. With that money, Naruto would be able to cover his life expenses for a while. It was not as if he was just trying to get rich quickly. He'd probably be furious if we had told him we were going to use his sword as a grave marker too. Thought Naruto as he glanced at the grave one last time before sealing the sword away. I'll be glad to get out of here. Thought Naruto sadly as memories of the mission to the land of waves came back to him. The thoughts of him being a leaf ninja with Sasuke still around were hard to bear. With his task done, Naruto rolled up the scroll and put it back in his pouch before heading back to Tazuna's home. He had to admit that he was thankful that the old bridge builder had offered to let him stay with his family for a little while. As we'll all know, Naruto's not that bright among other things, but with his intelligence mostly being underestimated by the people around him, Naruto couldn't really be told that he was a genius, considering that his former teammates were Sasuke Uchiha and Sakura Haruno, the 2 smartest people in the academy. So while he was no genius in certain parts of the ninja world, most people would agree that he was fairly intelligent to pull off the pranks he pulled on the villagers. And him being in Jinchuriki, Naruto had to learn about survival very fast. That intelligence alone was the only thing that prevented him from heading straight to the land of water from the land of waves by boat. Anyone who learned of his destination would be able to beat him there. To get from the land of water from the land of waves by boat, one would have to take a boat all the way around the land of tea just to get to the other side of the land of fire. It would cut at least a day off of the travel time if someone were to cut straight through the land of fire and take a boat from the eastern coast to the land of water. Naruto was taking every change he had not to enter the land of fire again. So, Naruto made a decision that was either incredibly intelligent or incredibly stupid. He decided to take a detour around the land of fire and take a boat from the land of hot water to the land of water. And surprisingly, Naruto had actually calculated the distance that he would have to travel in his little detour, and he had found that it was about the same distance as a round trip between the Hidden Sand Village and the Hidden Leaf Village. But at the moment Naruto was about 3 days into his trip altogether, and he had just crossed the border into the land of the waterfall about an hour earlier. But as fate would have it, fate decided it was time for our favorite blonde-headed ninja to do the one most thing is was good at saving people. But for Naruto was in the right place at the right time when he heard a sudden noise in the woods to the left of the empty road that he had been traveling along. He turned just in time to see someone fly through the woods and hit the ground, rolling several times before coming to a stop. Naruto barely had time to take note that the person before him was a girl. Actually, she was a kunoichi, if the headband tied around her right arm was any indication. He took note of the symbol of the hidden waterfall village, moments before rustling from the woods to his left caught his attention again. Looking away from the white-clad kunoichi, Naruto saw that there were 4 waterfall ninjas standing across from her. They were wearing flak jackets. It's useless to run, Fu. You should know by now that we aren't gonna allow you to leave the village so easily. We've been over this before. You belong to the village, so stop running and give up. We got our orders to take you by force if we have to, said one of the Taki ninja as he and 3 others got closer to the Kunoichi. You all can do to hell. I ain't going back to that village just so you can use me like a weapon instead of a person, said the Kunoichi as she rose to the kneeling position. As for Naruto, he caught a glimpse of her orange eyes as she had looked at the waterfall ninja. "I'd be that way, but don't say we didn't warn you," said another one of the waterfall ninja as he formed a few hand signs and said water-style water whip jutsu. Soon a whip made out of water had appeared on his right hand and soon the other waterfall ninja did the same. Soon one of the ninja had snapped it towards the runaway Kunoichi with a flick of his wrist. It then wrapped around her before she could react. As for Naruto, he noticed by the look on her face, it was tight enough to make it difficult to breathe easily. He at this point was though with sitting back and watching. "Hey dumbuses, leave her alone," said Naruto as he made his presence known to them. Not realizing who Naruto was, one of the waterfall ninja replied to him. "This is none of your fucking business, kid, so leave and maybe we'll forget that you tried to interfere with the business of our village," said the ninja as he looked at Naruto for a moment. Soon, his eyes narrowed further, saw the shuriken holster on his right leg. "What are you gonna do? Use that stupid hero's water to boost you charcoal levels? Because seeing how there's 4 of yous trying to handle one signal Kunoichi is a bit pedantic if you ask me. Your village must really be a second-rate village if you can't even handle one girl," said Naruto as he saw the angry looks the waterfall ninja had on their faces. "Are you okay?" said Naruto as he reached into his hip pouch. "I'm okay for now, but can you please help me? I don't want to go back to that village," said the Kunoichi in a low voice. As for Naruto, he could tell that she was having trouble asking for his help. He even noticed a bit of resentment in her voice. But he knew it wasn't towards him. "She must hate asking for help. I wonder why," thought Naruto as he removed a kunai from his hip pouch and threw it towards the middle of the water whip. It took everyone a moment to see the paper bomb attached to the kunai. As it was, it detonated and severed the water whip before the waterfall ninja. Fu immediately fell to her hands and knees as she regained her breath. After a few deep breaths, she rose to her feet and stepped to Naruto's side. "They're strong," Fu warned. "So am I," Naruto said as he formed his signature hand sign. None of the waterfall ninja recognized it. Shadow clone jutsu. In an instant, 10 shadow clones came to life in front of Naruto. Each one pulled a kunai out and prepared to fight. Are those solid clones? And how can he make so many? Normally a ninja can only make about 1 or 2 at the very least, thought Fu curiously. The only solid clones that she was familiar with were water clones and mud clones. "Clones won't help you against us," the leader of the waterfall ninja said confidently. "We'll see about that attack," Naruto said softly. In an instant, the 10 clones attacked the 4 waterfall ninja and Naruto looked at the Kunoichi and they both ran. After a few minutes, Naruto thought that they were a good distance away from the waterfall ninja. "Okay, it looks like we're good for now, but before I make any more decisions, I need to know why they are trying to capture you," Naruto said, immediately catching Fu's attention. She seemed to freeze as she processed the question, but she managed to come up with an answer soon enough. "Well, since you're saving me, I guess you should know. You see, I never wanted to become a ninja of my village. They treat me like dirt and call me names every day, so I thought about it. Why should I protect a place and serve the people when they have done nothing for me but despise my very existence," said Fu. Her voice seemed so cold as she spoke. "You see, for the past year I've been trying to escape. This is my 20th attempt. If I could just make it past the border I could be free," she said with hope in her voice. "Her life sounds just like mine's and Gaara's," thought Naruto as he looked at the Kunoichi. "Have you ever killed anyone from your village?" Naruto asked suddenly. He wanted to make sure that she was not like Gaara. "No, I haven't. I'd love to kill those guys though," Fu replied as she sent a hate-filled glare at the waterfall ninja. "Then what are you waiting for? The only way you can get away from them is by doing just that. My clones won't be able to hold them off long enough for you to run away from here," said Naruto as he formed his signature hand sign again. And soon over a dozen clones popped in front of them. As for Fu, she was still surprised to see so many clones. Soon the 4 waterfall ninja had showed up with a kunai in their hands. "Like I said before, you stupid girl, we're taking you back to the village," said one of the ninja as he pointed the kunai at them. "You can take me back when I'm dead," said Fu, molded chakra and did a few hand signs as she prepared one of the few ninjutsu techniques that she knew. "Hidden waterfall style. Water slicing blade," she said as the moisture in the air around her gathered at her right hand. In an instant, she held a weapon made of water that resembled a sword. With a chakra-enhanced dash, Fu appeared behind one of Naruto's shadow clones and plunged her blade through its back. Though Naruto was a bit thrown off by the maneuver, he was impressed to see what she had actually done. Fu had acted with the knowledge that the shadow clone was merely a clone, so she had run her sword through it and threw the waterfall shinobi directly in front of the clone. A quick glance at the waterfall shinobi allowed Fu to see that she had pierced the leader through his heart. Bringing the blade out of him, she spun in sweeping arc and decapitated one of the other waterfall shinobi. Just as Fu was going for another attack, she then heard a weird sound. She then turned around and saw something weird. Whoever this guy was, he was molding charca to the palm of his hand. She then heard him say Sengen. She then saw him rush two of the waterfall ninja and slam those two spiraling blue orbs into the abdomens of the waterfall ninja. But just as she was to speak, she saw two of his clones repeat the process and got the last remaining one. Soon she felt a big burst of wind hit her as she saw the ninja that were chasing her fly backwards with incredible force. What the hell was that technique? I've never seen anything like it before. They were made with visible charca, but charca isn't visible, is it? Thought Fu as she was amazed at the technique. Soon the sickening crunch of the waterfall shinobi slamming into two thick trees broke her from her thoughts. Looking at the two dead shinobi before him, Naruto closed his eyes and took a deep breath. He had never taken a life before. I'm glad I didn't learn their names. Naruto thought as his breathing steadied. He then turned and looked at Fu. We haven't been properly introduced. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto said as his eyes stayed on the green-haired Kunoichi. But just then Naruto noticed the shocking look on her face. Wait, did you just say your name was Naruto Uzumaki? The Naruto Uzumaki who saved the village from Suion, who tried to use the hero's water to try and take over the village, said Fu, as she couldn't believe that she was meeting the hero of her former village. The very same. Why, said Naruto as he looked at the Kunoichi and noticed that his attitude had suddenly changed. Oh my god, it is you. I never thought that I'd get the chance to meet you. My name's Fu. I heard everything about you when saved the village. You're my hero, Naruto-sama said. Fu sounds like a fangirl. Your hero, huh? I never thought as myself as a hero, actually, said Naruto as he grinned and put his hand on the back of his head. But if I may ask, Naruto-sama, why are you here? Not that I'm not grateful or anything, asked Fu curiously. Well, if I tell you, you got to promise me that you'll never tell anyone that you saw me, said Naruto as he looked at Fu. I promise I won't tell a soul, she replied. I failed a mission to bring back my best friend, and when my sensei managed to take me back to the village, they had me do a mental exam. The Hokage there then told me that I failed the exam and I had to get kicked out of the ninja crops, but luckily for me, my sensei helped me escape so I could live a better life, said Naruto as Fu listened very carefully. So they actually kicked you out for that? I can't believe it, a hero such as yourself getting kicked out of the ninja crops for such a stupid reason. I just can't believe it, said Fu as she looked at Naruto. I know it was stupid, but let's continue this talk somewhere else. We don't know if they sent any more ninja after you, and I'm sure you don't want to stick around for that, said Naruto as Fu nodded in agreement. Soon the two ninjas jumped on a tree branch and started heading to the border, but it was at this moment that Naruto managed to get a good look at Fu. Taking her full appearance, skin was a little darker than his own, though he was unsure if it was just her natural skin color or as a result of being out in the sun on a regular basis. She wore a sleeveless white shirt that ended right above her belly button would have been, but she wore bandages around everything below the hem of her shirt, so it was not as if he could see it. That was not the only thing about her attire that reminded Naruto of Ino's though. She wore white sleeves that covered her arms from wrist to a few inches past her elbows. In addition to that, she wore a white skirt with bandages covering her legs under them, just like Ino wore, though the Leaf Kunoichi wore purple clothing. And to complete her attire, she had a black banded waterfall headband tied around her right bicep and an orange hair clip in her hair at the right side of her forehead. Naruto also noticed that she was around his age, if not probably a year younger than he was. He was just about to ask her when he heard her spoke. I have to thank you again, Naruto-sama. I don't know what had happened if you not had shown when you did, said Fu as she smiled at him. It was my pleasure. I couldn't let them take you back to a place you obviously hate, and please just call me Naruto, he said as he looked at Fu. But what Naruto didn't notice what was small blush that Fu had when he spoke to her. She couldn't believe that the one person she looked up to had actually saved her from being taken back to the village. After a couple of minutes had passed, Fu pursed her lips in thought. After a few moments, she made a decision and said, Naruto, would you be willing to help me once again? Asked Fu as she looked at Naruto. Yes, I would. Naruto answered, not even asking what she needed help with. That little fact caught Fu by surprise. Those four were Chunin of my old village, and they never only sent Chunin to recapture me. Waterfall might not have that many Jonin, but they always send at least two. So Fu began. You think that there are a few Jonin after you? Naruto asked. Fu nodded with a sigh. I've come this close to getting away, but I won't be able to make it to the border before the Jonin find me. I'll lose a little time, but Naruto trailed off in his mind. He knew that he had to help her if he could. But without saying a word, Naruto walked over to her and untied the forehead protector from her arm. He then pulled out a kunai and used it to undo the screws on the back of the plate, dropping the metal from the cloth. Glancing back at his only remaining shadow clones, he said, start a fire and burn the bodies. Put the metal plate and the cloth in there too. He tossed the forehead protector that he had just taken apart to the clones as he said that. Not that I'm not grateful for your help, Naruto-sama, but what exactly are you doing? Asked Fu, adding the word Sama to his name. showing how much she respected him. You see, the waterfall Jonin are gonna be tracking you by your scent, so burning human flesh will incredibly overpower it. They will have a hard time once they get here, so that's why we're gonna burn your forehead protector. As well, we can't have them using it to track your scent, replied Naruto, as he piled the dead bodies and started a fire. But I still don't understand, why did you take it apart if they're just going to burn it? Asked Fu out of curiosity. Because the metal might have protected a bit of cloth, if the Jonin noticed it, they could use that bit of cloth to track your scent, said Naruto, as his clones dispelled, and Naruto threw both the cloth and metal plate into the fire. Now we need to leave. Who know how much time we got left before they get here, and stay alert, for all we know they may be already here, he said as he looked at Fu. I understand, let's go, she replied as she followed Naruto. But as they starting moving though the forest, she noticed that he wasn't taking the road opposite of where they just were. Naruto-sama, how come we're not taking the road, she asked. They continued to move though the forest. They would be expecting that. They think you're alone at the moment. It's best that they don't know that you've got help. Plus footprints in the forest around the road are a bit more alarming, replied Naruto, as Fu had understood everything that Naruto was telling her. Wow, you really are a great ninja, Naruto-sama. I don't think that I could have gotten this far without you, said Fu, as a small blush went across her face as they continued to run. Well, I wouldn't say great if you ask me. The only reason why I knew how to do that was because an old friend of mine at the Leaf Village taught me a bit about masking your scent in the forest. But if I had say it, I would say that you were better than me, being able to flee from Fortune and some Jonin. I have to say that you thought this out. I didn't think that they would send Jonin after you, said Naruto. If I may ask this, Naruto-sama, what was that technique that you used? I think I heard you call it the Rasengan, or something like that. I never seen one like it before. I never thought chakra could be visible, asked Fu. Well, first I told you to just call me Naruto. We're friends after, aren't we? And secondly, you're right, one of my senseis taught it to me a few months back. It's an A-rank jutsu created by the 4th Hokage, said Naruto, as he didn't notice the shocked look on Fu's face as he answered the question. I was taught that jutsu by Jiraiya of the Sannin. He was also the 4th Hokage's teacher, said Naruto, not yet wanting to tell her that he was the son of the 4th Hokage. Jiraiya of the Sannin was your teacher? I can't believe it, said Fu as she was dumbfounded at that moment. She had heard so many stories of the Sannin. And seeing her hero as one of their students made her respect him even more. But what kind of clone jutsu did you use earlier? She asked. When I destroyed one of yours, I saw that it turned to smoke. She said as she looked at Naruto. That's the shadow clone jutsu. It's a B-rank jutsu. It makes a perfect copy of the user and splits my chakra evenly into however many clones I create, said Naruto with a smile. He could not remember anyone ever showing interest in his jutsu before. I can also use the A-rank Kinjutsu variant, the multi-shadow clone jutsu, which allows me to make over a dozen clones or more at once, he replied as they continued to move through the forest. Wow, he's only a genin, and he knows both A-rank and B-rank jutsu. It's no wonder why he beat Shuin. I wonder what other jutsu Naruto-sama knows, thought Fu, as she looked at Naruto once more before they almost made it out of the forest. After about a few hours of running through the forest, both Naruto and Fu thought that it was time for a break. They were a little over a mile from the border between the land of waterfall and the land of grass. Even though the forest had surrounded the road on both sides, they were now arriving at a spot where the road had been built, thought the clearing. Stopping at the very edge of the clearing, Naruto caught Fu by her shoulder, bringing her to an abrupt stop. As soon as they stopped, a flicker of water appeared in the middle of the road, in the center of the clearing. Where the flicker of water had been, a man in his mid-20s was standing. He had a waterfall forehead protector and a flak jacket on, similar to the last group of shinobi that he and Fu had fought. Damn, she was right, they did send a few Jonin after her, thought Naruto as he thought up a plan. Fu, stay back, said Naruto, whispered Naruto in a low voice loud enough so Fi could hear him. Fu nodded her head in agreement. I shouldn't be surprised that you found us already. I thought I at least had another hour or two before you caught up to us, said Naruto as he looked at the group of Jonin. We weren't after you at all, we're after the girl, nothing else. We could care less about you, now head over the girl. She is the property of the hidden waterfall village. You have no right to help someone like her, said one of the Jonin. How can you people treat her like crap? She is a human being, not your property, said Naruto with coldness in his voice. You wouldn't be saying that if you really knew her. Thanks to her, many people have suffered because of her. She thinks she's human, but in reality she's just a monster whose only job is to be used as a weapon for our village, said another one of the Jonin. Please don't tell him. I don't know what I'd do if he knew, thought Fu as she felt her heart skip every other beat. But Naruto's next words made her feel special. You people are so fucking stupid. How can someone as sweet as her be called a monster? I may have only met her just a few hours ago, but at least I know she isn't a monster. If I had to say it, I would call you people the monsters. Forcing someone to do your bidding when you don't even consider their feeling. All villages are the same if you ask me, said Naruto as he knew how it felt being called a monster, demon scum and etc. As for Fu, she felt so happy at the moment her hero had called her a sweet person. She had never been called that before. She was usually called slut, whore, bitch, and every other cruel word you could think of. But would he call me that again if he really knew what I contained, she thought as she looked at Naruto. She's no human. She's just a monster, now turn around and leave, or else we'll be forced to kill you, said the leader of the Jonin as the four of them headed towards them. Why would I let you take her back to that village? She obviously hates the place, said Naruto, as he thought of a plan to hand the 5 Jonin in front of him. That girl'll hold a monster inside of her with no consequence. Once we kill you, we will take her back to the village, and the tailed beast that is sealed inside of her will be extracted and put in someone else. Those are the wishes of the council, said the lead Jonin, in hopes the young boy would simply just betray the girl and leave. The tailed beast. She actually has a tailed beast sealed inside her just like me, and Gaara thought Naruto as he turned and looked at Fu for a moment and turned back and looked at the Jonin. Well, in that case I'm afraid I can't let you take her, and since I know you're not just gonna let us go, I'm afraid it's time for you guys to die, said Naruto in an even colder voice as before. Behind him, Fu was shocked. Whether the majority of the shock was a result of the Jonin revealing her status as a Jinchuriki or a result of Naruto her hero not fleeing. As for Naruto not know this, but Fu's respect for him grew immensely at that moment. Multi-shadow clone jutsu, Naruto called out. Instantly everybody was shocked as the 5 Jonin found themselves surrounded by what looked like over 1,000 shadow clones. There were so many clones that many of them had to stand on the tree branches that surrounded the entire area. This is impossible, no one can create this many clones and not die from chakra exhaustion. They're probably all just regular clones, said one of the Jonin as he was still surprised to see this many clones. Well, if you don't believe me, then let's test that little theory of yours, shall we, said Naruto as he gave the hand signal. In a matter of seconds, each shadow clone withdrew a kunai with a paper bomb attached to it. They proceeded to throw the large number of replicated kunai at the 5 Jonin. Rather than wait to see if they were real, the 5 Jonin moved forward to attach Naruto so that they could get to Fu. When the Jonin were approximately 20 feet away from Naruto, all of the replicated paper bombs exploded, throwing off their balance momentarily. That was all that was needed though. Duck, said Fu suddenly as her voice being heard by Naruto due to the ringing in his ears of the 5 Jonin. Naruto then quickly ducked down, allowing Fu's water sword to swing in an arc where his head had been. But shockingly, one of the Jonin had managed to get himself out of the bombs, and kunai thrown at him. Soon, the Jonin came swinging his water sword instantly. The other 4 Jonin were shocked when their leader was decapitated by the water sword of a genin. Soon fear struck them a second later as they noticed Fu's eyes as they were no longer orange. They were now crimson red. Naruto had managed to get a quick look at Fu's eyes as well, and he saw that they were different from his own when he was influenced by the fox's chakra. Her pupils and her eyes were still round, whereas his would have been slit like those of a cat or fox. I guess everyone's different, thought Naruto. As for Fu, she had noticed that Naruto had seen her eyes immediately. What left her puzzled was the fact that he did not show a single ounce of fear on his face. Breaking away from those thoughts, she sprung into actions, using her enhanced speed and strength to assault one of the Jonin. Though a normal Jonin would not have had to work too hard to fight Fu in her initial Jinchuriki state, the situation was not exactly normal. While there were 3 Jonin to fight her, they were partially occupied by kunai and shuriken that were being thrown at them from behind. The eyes of one of the Jonin suddenly widened as he saw that the original Naruto was no longer standing where he had been. In fact, he had no idea where Naruto was. Well, he did not at that moment. He did a moment later though. Rasengan. Naruto declared fiercely as he slammed a spiraling blue orb of chakra into the lower back of the Jonin that had noticed that he had disappeared. That Jonin was dead before he ever hit the ground. The Rasengan had completely shattered the Jonin's spinal cord and backbone, sending fragments of bone into his lungs and heart at a rather high speed. As Naruto watched Fu decapitate another Jonin that had turned to look at him, Naruto only had one thought at that moment. Man, for Jonin, these guys don't know teamwork, do they? That's basically Ninja 101, thought Naruto as he looked at the Jonin. The second after that thought crossed his mind, he saw one of the last 2 Jonin come at Fu from behind with a kunai. It was clear to him that she was unaware of his presence. Hey furball, it's time to pay up your rent, I need your chakra now, said Naruto to the Kyuubi. Surprisingly, when Naruto had said that he felt the 9 tails chakra fill him immediately, it was only enough to enter the initial Jinchuriki state, but that was all that Naruto needed. The Jonin's wrist was caught by Naruto's left hand an inch before the kunai could reach Fu's back. With a squeeze, Naruto crushed the Jonin's wrist and snatched his falling kunai midair. He proceeded to slam the kunai into the bottom of the Jonin's jaw, piercing through the roof of his mouth. Though the kunai did not go very far into the Jonin's brain, it killed him within moments. As he saw Fu begin to turn around, Naruto quickly tried to suppress the fox's chakra, and he was shocked when his initial "I need to figure out how to do that at will," thought Naruto as Fu went towards him. "Wow, you saved my life once again, Naruto-sama, thank you," said Fu as she bowed. As for Naruto, a quick glance at his surroundings told Naruto that Fu had just killed the last Jonin, as he killed the one that had attempted to attack her from behind. No problem, but Fu, do you really have a tailed beast sealed inside you? Asked Naruto as Fu looked surprised at the question. Fu looked at him for a few moments with orange eyes once again before answering yes, I do. She replied, hoping her hero would see her as a monster. Naruto saw that she looked nervous and fearful as she said that. It was as if she thought he would turn on her after everything that he had done to help her. Which one is it? The only other one that I've met held the one tail. Asked Naruto in a way that he worded it made it difficult to tell that he was not referring to Fu when he said other. When I was 3 years old the seven-tailed horned beetle was sealed within me. I was 3 at the time. Ever since then, I've been treated like crap my whole life. At first I didn't know why I was treated that way until I was made genin. They told me that I was merely a weapon for them to use in case a stronger country found our village and tried to destroy it, said Fu, as she felt like she was gonna cry. A couple seconds later she heard Naruto laughing at her, as if she had made some kind of joke. She was so surprised that he didn't try to run from her or call her names before he left. To say she was really dumbfounded at this moment. Why are you laughing? I just told you that I had a tailed beast sealed inside me and you're laughing. Shouldn't you be calling me monster or try to run away? That what everybody else do was all Fu could say before she felt Naruto's hand slap her face. You are not a monster, you understand me? Saying that a normal person would fear you or call you one is bullshit. You never asked to have it sealed inside of you, didn't you? I don't ever want to hear you call yourself a monster or anything this else. You got that, said Naruto, as Fu looked stunned because he slapped her for calling herself a monster. Did he really just slap me because I called myself a monster? Thought Fu as she rubbed her cheek. I can't believe not even for a moment that you're a monster. Believe me when I say this, those people at the Leaf and Waterfall village are the monsters, and besides you're not the only host here, said Naruto, hoping Fu got what he meant. What did you say? She asked, hoping he could repeat what he said. I said that you aren't the only host here, said Naruto with no hint of hesitation or deception in his voice. You actually have one as one? Which one? Asked Fu, knowing all of the tailed beast names, so any error of in naming one would mean that he was lying to her just to make her feel better. On the day I was born 13 years ago, the 9-tailed demon fox attacked the Hidden Leaf village, and since it is impossible for anyone to beat Abiju the 4th Hokage, my father sealed it within me, said Naruto, revealing that he was the son of a Kage to the Kinwaichi. So see, I would have to be a monster to seeing as mine has more tails than yours, said Naruto, as Fu looked even more surprised at what Naruto said. No wonder why he wasn't afraid of me, he has the strongest tailed beast sealed inside him, thought Fu as she felt a bit relieved to have met a Jinchuriki just like her. Well Fu, seeing as you're free to live your life, would you like to join me, said Naruto, as his words broke her train of thought. But why would you want me to join you? Not that I'm not grateful for your help, Naruto-sama, she replied. I actually have 3 reasons, said Naruto as he sighed. The first is because I see myself in you. The second is because I'm going to need all the help I can get. And the third is because you and I are both in danger. Danger? What kind of danger? Asked before she gave him a reply to his question. Because there is a secret, there is an organization of S-rank shinobi that are targeting hosts because of their tailed beasts. I don't know much more than that, but apparently Kisame Hoshigaki and Itachi Uchiha are members. Naruto explained. Fu thought about it for a moment. She didn't really like the idea of being hunted like a monster again, but the good news was that she would be with Naruto, her hero, the one person she looked up to. And seeing as her and Naruto were both Jinchuriki, she thought best to stick together. Okay Naruto, I'll join you, so what do we do first? Asked Fu as she looked at Naruto. Well, now that we're traveling together, we have to go all the way through the land of the waterfall in order to circle around the land of fire, though, said Naruto, as he was glad to see that Fu was not so concentrated on what they held at that moment. That would be very dangerous for me. Fu replied. In all honesty, she wanted to agree to go with him. After all the years of dealing with hatred and loneliness, she finally had someone who could understand her and did not care what she held inside of her. I can help you get through the country without leaving your scent, said Naruto as he pulled out a small scroll. Unrolling it, he unsealed his hooded cloak from it. If you put this on, my scent will mask yours. It'll take a few days before my scent disappears from it and we could be out of the country within a day, said Naruto. Now we need to stay together. I personally think we were brought together for a reason, but as we continue I think we should know more about each other since we're not comrades, said Naruto, as Fu looked at him for a moment and nodded. So where are we actually doing? Asked Fu. Well, I'll tell you on the way, but I don't suppose you've had the story of Zabuza Mamachi's death? Asked Naruto. As for Fu, she knew of the demon of the hidden mist, but she didn't know how he died. She couldn't help but wonder why he asked her that and what it had to do with their destination. I'm gonna tell you the full story about his death, and if you have any questions about it, I'll answer them as we travel, said Naruto as Fu nodded. After a few minutes Naruto began to tell her how he became the hero of the Wave Village. A month after I became a genin, my team was assigned to escort a bridge builder to the land of waves, said Naruto, as he began to tell her the story. It had been 5 days since Naruto had met Fu, and she decided to travel with him. During those 5 days the two had gotten to know the other. Fu was so happy that she was able to travel with her hero. She had learned of Naruto hobbies, likes and dislikes, as well as some of the techniques he knew. After such time had passed, they had finally reached their destination, the land of water. Also during their journey they had managed to get to the land of hot water without incident, and there had only been a minor bit of trouble procuring a means of reaching the land of water. The fact that they had been stowaways did not really count as trouble to Naruto though. As for Naruto, he had to admit that traveling with a companion was a great deal more comforting than traveling alone. He was so happy that he had met someone just like him, and a kunoichi no less. Naruto also learned a bit about Fu as they traveled together. He learned that she had a ramen addiction as he did as well. She liked to try different kinds at once. She also liked to handle swords as well. Since she only knew the water sword jutsu, she really wanted to be swordsman. He also learned her likes and dislikes as well. As they continued to run through the forest examining his surroundings, Naruto saw that they were about to walk into an area where they could be ambushed easily. The road that they were traveling on to head to the Hidden Mist village had forest on both sides, with the occasional clearing as a result of a lake that had been there when the road was built. Though this remained true of the area that they were approaching, Naruto had made an interesting observation. The road actually seemed to dip downward. In fact, it seemed that the road was a good 10 feet below the forests that surrounded it. It was almost as if the road had been lowered with an earth-style jutsu. With all the forest around here, the road is the only fast way to travel. If they could use the road to set up an ambush with a height advantage, then it would be hard for a large number of ninja to reach the village, thought Naruto as he suddenly got an eerily feeling. "Do prepare yourself," said Naruto in a real low voice, enough that the enemy didn't know that they were already find out. With her hands in the hooded cloak that Naruto had given her, Fu had already prepared her water blade for the ambush that she was expecting. She was not entirely sure why they would be ambushed at all thought. When they actually got to the lowest point of the road in the dip, shinobi appeared surrounding them from the edges of the forest and at the road behind and before them. Suddenly standing before Naruto and Fu was a man with long black hair that wore all black underneath his flak jacket. His face was covered by a white and red striped mask with horizontal slit-eye holes and the emblem of the Hidden Mist village upon its forehead. "That mask looks like Haku's," thought Naruto as a quickly remembrance of Haku's mask went into his mind. He was still unsure if Haku was a boy or girl despite being what he was told. "You two state your purpose for traveling down this road. If you don't, I'll be forced to kill you," said the hunter nin as he took out what looked like a katana and got in a stance. Naruto could tell by the sound his voice that he was serious. He also knew that he was no match for this hunter nin as well, so Naruto decided to play it safe as he also thought of a getaway plan just in case the hunter nin decided to fight them. "We mean you no harm, me and my companion just want to enter the village and speak to the Mizukage. I have something that might be have interest," said Naruto as the hunter nin looked at him. "I see, that is unfortunate," said the hunter with a hand gesture with his other hand. Four shinobi clad in the attire of a mystic nin or jounin, Naruto was unsure which they were, appeared in front of and behind him and Fu. The two in front of them were at each side of the hunter nin. "Are you guys deaf or just dumb? I just told you we mean you no harm. So please drop your weapon," said Naruto as he began to mold his chakra for the multi-shadow clone jutsu, just in case the hunter nin decided to fight them. "We don't trust you at the moment. For all we know you're a spy. Remove your entire weapons from your body, then you will be taken in for questioning without any harm," said the hunter nin with a calm voice. In an instant, Fu cast a hooded cloak to the side and formed her water-slicing blade, while Naruto created a shadow clone, which proceeded to help him form a Rasengan before it dispelled. "You were warned," said the hunter nin as he quickly put the katana back in its sheath and then did a few hand says before shouting out secret jutsu Kirisum. In a matter of moments, it began to rain, but it was not like normal rain. Naruto's eyes widened in shock as his Rasengan faded from existence. At the same time, Fu's water blade fell apart. That was all Naruto and Fu remembered before they blacked out. A few hours later, after several hours later, both Naruto and Fu had both woken up rather roughly. They both looked at each other for a moment before they noticed that their hands were bound together by ninja wire. They looked around and quickly noticed that they were in a relatively large canvas tent, though the chairs that they sat in were the only objects within the tent. "Are you okay?" asked Naruto glancing at his companion once again. "I'll be fine. Just tell me that you have a plan," said Fu hopefully. Naruto mentally cursed as he realized that his shuriken holster, kunai holster and hip pouch had been taken away. It was not as if he could simply create a shadow clone to help him get free either. His hands were bound too tightly for that. "There's no point in struggling. Your hands only remain bound until I am satisfied that you will not attack," said a female voice. Naruto's and Fu's eyes immediately went to the opening of the tent where a woman had just entered. They then saw a woman that appeared to be in her late 20s. She had long auburn hair, styled into a herringbone pattern at the back, a top knot tied with a dark blue band, and with 4 bangs at the front. 2 of the bangs were short, with one covering her right eye, and 2 were long, crossing each other at her chest, just below her chin. Furthermore, her eyes were light green. Naruto quickly noticed that she was clad in a dark blue set of clothing that was reminiscent of what most Leaf Shinobi wore. It lacked spirals on the shoulders though, of course. In addition to that, she was wearing a flak jacket of the Hidden Mist Village. I apologize for the actions of my men earlier, one of my subordinates overreacted when he detected that two Jinchuriki hosts were headed to see the Mizukage, said the woman, as she noticed that they froze slightly at her words. You do not need to be so worried, I could not care less that you two have tailed beasts sealed within you. It is not much different than having a Kekai Genkai, after all, where are my manners? My name is Mei Terumi. She said as she introduced herself. How did you know that we were Jinchuriki? I thought all information on that was classified, said Naruto, knowing since the village even kept that from him it wasn't stupid to ask that. My subordinate, the superior of the hunter nin that confronted you on the road, is a censor-type shinobi. He was actually able to tell us which tailed beasts you both contained within moments, replied Mei with a smile. She seemed far too cheerful for Naruto's taste. Now, I must confess that I was surprised to find that one of the Jinchuriki that my subordinates captured was Naruto Uzumaki. How do you know who I am? Asked Naruto in shock. Your name had been spread around ever since the death of Zabuza Momochi's death, and the fact that the Land of Waves named their bridge the Great Naruto Bridge. I have to say that personally I'm impressed. You're only a genin and you've done so much, plus I didn't have a face to put with your name until the Hidden Leaf Village began to post missing posters of you. There's also an enormous reward for any information that can be found on you, said Mei, as both Fu and Mei looked at Naruto. But before I continue, I think it's only fair that I explain who I am. As I told you before, my name is Mei Terumi. I am the leader of the rebellion that is trying to overthrow the 4th Mizukage. You two are at my central base right now, said Mei, as she opened the tent a bit so Naruto and Fu could see outside. You see, the Land of Water is currently in a civil war between the 4th Mizukage regime. Me and my small but powerful rebellion wish to bring an end to the Bloody Mist Village before it's too late. That actually brings us to the reason why you're here. I would like your assistance, said Mei with a kind voice. The way that the woman before them spoke so casually made the two Jinchuriki nervous. Well, it was nice not being feared for what they contained. It was unnerving to hear that their assistance was wanted by a rebel force. Are you trying to hire us? Asked Fu, catching on to the woman's meaning immediately. Let me see. Two Jinchuriki without any ties to any village just showed up at my doorstep. Of course I'm going to try and hire you. You see, the 4th Mizukage is a Jinchuriki as well. He is the host of the three-tailed turtle, and he has complete control over it, said Mei, as both Naruto and Fu looked a bit shocked to hear that bit of information. They couldn't believe that someone had actually managed to have complete control over their beast. With all due respect, Mei, but are you stupid or something? Naruto, as he looked at Mei, exactly how do you expect us to defeat someone like that? Just because we have tailed beasts sealed in us doesn't mean we have that much control. Plus I doubt that just because he has control over his beast, he was made Mizukage, said Naruto, as he knew that if you wanted to be a Kage, you needed more than just power to rule a village. I'm not asking you to kill the Mizukage, Mei said. I am the only one that can defeat him. After all, I am the only other Kage-level shinobi in this country. But I will need help when he uses the 3 tails. If I have a couple Jinchuriki to help me, I'm sure that he can be beaten, said Mei as she looked at the two. So let me get this straight, Naruto began. You want to hire us to help you kill the 4th Mizukage so that you can take his place and end the reign of the Blood Mist Village? Mei nodded in response. Is that all you need us to do? Asked Naruto. No, it isn't, replied Mei with a look of satisfaction on her face. We are not prepared to launch an attack on the Mizukage yet. We are still obtaining the funds and forces to do so. There are also a few tasks that need to be done, and your help would be beneficial in them, said Mei. Would you tell me what those tasks are? Asked Naruto. No, I won't, replied Mei immediately. You don't need to know unless you agree to work for me until this rebellion is over, and even then, I will only release such information on a need-to-know basis. It would be bad if you were captured on your first mission, and the enemy learned of all of our plans, said Mei, as she looked at Naruto and Fu. Fu, what do you think? I don't want to do anything that would make you uncomfortable, said Naruto as he looked at Fu. If the price is right, then I believe we should accept, said Fu as she looked at Naruto. As long as the price is right? Asked Mei, amused. What price do you wish to receive in turn for your assistance? Asked Mei. We would obviously need shelter, food, and ninja tools for the duration of our employment, said Fu, earning a nod from Naruto. As long as the essentials are paid for, I'm not going to ask for money, said Naruto, surprising Mei tremendously. There is something far more valuable to me than money at this point, though. Instead of Ryo in exchange for our services, I want training. It would be beneficial to both us and you if we were to learn new jutsu when you do not have us working on a task, said Naruto. Fu smiled at that thought. Training was something that she had always wanted, and she would be more than happy to sacrifice monetary gain for it. In an instant, the ninja wire that bound Naruto and Fu's hand snapped. I agree to your terms, said Mei cheerfully. She had every reason to be cheerful at that moment. Though she could tell that the former genin before them were not that powerful, Mei had every confidence that she could bring them to the level of Chunin at the very least. Their tailed beasts would further serve to increase their power from Chunin to Jounin, from what she had learned. Things are starting to look up, thought Mei. But before we get to training, I believe we still have negotiating to do. I think I got something that you would want, said Naruto as Mei and Fu were surprised at what Naruto said. What exactly are you trying to sell me? Asked Mei as she looked at Naruto. I need my hip pouch, it's sealed in the scroll labeled with the kanji for blade. Replied Naruto, sparking her interest even further. Did you hear that, ow? Said Mei, glancing over her shoulder. In an instant, a middle-aged man entered the tent. He was wearing the same attire as Mei, but he had a blue banded forehead protector on. Furthermore, he had blue hair spiked upwards. His left eye appeared to be the same color as his hair, though his right eye was hidden beneath a black eye patch. In the man's hands was the scroll that Naruto had mentioned. Yes, I did, Lady Terumi. Said Ao, tossing the scroll to Naruto. Don't try anything funny. Lady Terumi could melt the flesh from the bones of everyone in this tent before you could even unroll that scroll. Said Ao as he gave Naruto a glare. Now, don't scare them. Said Mei playfully. There was no hint of doubt in the eyes of either Miss Ninja that she could manage it though. Right, because I'm obviously stupid enough to fight a cage-level ninja again, Naruto muttered as he unrolled the scroll. You've fought cage-level shinobi before. How, you're only a genin? Asked Mei, interested in the young blonde once again. I suppose so. I don't think you can count my meeting with Kisame and Itachi as a fight, but I did fight Orochimaru before the invasion. Naruto answered. Shocking both Mei and Ao. Are you referring to Kisame Hoshigaki? Asked Ao, his attention at full alert. I don't remember his last name. His sword ate my chakra up though. Said Naruto, surprised that the man was more interested in Kisame than Orochimaru. If his sword actually ate your chakra, then it has to be Kisame Hoshigaki. Ao is one of the most skilled hunter nin that I have ever met, so hearing about the strongest rogue ninja of our village is certainly going to interest him. Stated Mei. Do you know where he is? He joined a group called Akatsuki. He's working with Itachi Uchiha, apparently. Said Naruto, hoping that he would not have to explain Akatsuki. Things are worse than I feared. Said Mei with a sigh. The thought of Kisame being a member of Akatsuki worried her. She was largely in the know, after all. Enough of that though. Show me what you intend to try to sell me. Said Mei. A storage seal. Thought Ao when Naruto finished unrolling the scroll. Touching the seal, Naruto released Zabuza's sword from it. As the massive sword appeared in tent in front of Naruto, everyone's eyes went wide. That's the Sever sword, the executioner's blade. Ao exclaimed, shocked by the appearance of one of the swords of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the Hidden Mist. He had never expected to see another one outside of Chijuru's Hiramekure. I can see why you would think that you could sell it to the Mizukage, though he would have killed you and taken it instead. Said Mei thoughtfully. I will give you 10 million ryo for that sword. Said Mei as everyone was shocked to hear her say that. But Lady Terumi, we are trying to fund the rebellion. Well, buying that sword is a good idea, we cannot afford to spend that much. Not yet, at least. Ao interjected. As long as we get the training during our stay here, we would be more than willing to wait until the rebellion is over before being paid for the sword. Said Fu, quickly calming Ao down. That is what I had intended. I just wanted to get the negotiations for the sword out of the way. Said Mei with a smile. I'm all for it. Said Naruto with a grin. That sword has been the second most expensive thing that I own, I guess. He said as Mei, Fu and Ao looked surprised. You own something worth more? Fu asked, sounding surprised at what Naruto said. Yes, I do. I own the first Hokage's necklace, said Naruto as he unzipped his jacket. Soon Mei, Fu and Ao saw the necklace that once belonged to the first Hokage. How did you get that necklace? I've heard that the current Hokage of the Leaf Village owned it, said Mei as she looked at the necklace. I won it off a bet from her. She bet me that I couldn't learn the Rasengan in less than a week, said Naruto as Mei looked even more surprised at what he said. Wait, you said the Rasengan? Wasn't that the technique that the fourth Hokage made? I've never seen it before, but I've heard the story, said Mei as she was surprised that a mere genin could have such items and know the fourth Hokage's technique. Yeah, he's the one who created the technique, but he also taught the technique to Iro-sanin, who taught it to me, said Naruto calmly. Iro-sanin? Asked Mei, a bit confused. Oh yeah, sorry about that, I meant to say Jiraiya of the Sanin. He was also my sensei, said Naruto as both Ao and Mei looked stunned at another revelation. Jiraiya of the Sanin was your teacher? Do you know where he is now? Asked Ao, hoping the Sanin wouldn't show up for revenge for taking his student. He had heard the stories of the Sanin, and he knew if they had to encounter him, they had every right to fear for their lives. Not at the moment, I don't, but I will soon. Kakashi sensei told me that he would contact me soon, But knowing Iro-san and he's probably at some hot spring and looking at every woman that passes by, said Naruto. Kakashi Haddock, the man who copied over 1,000 jutsu, was also your sensei, said Mei, surprised to see that the young genin was the student of the legendary Jiraiya and Kakashi. Boy, what other connection do you have to them? We need to know just in case we run into them, said Ao, fearing that the rebellion might be doomed if they had to encounter them. But I cannot say, I've said enough already, so if you happen to run by them, hurry up and contact me, I'm sure that they're looking for me as it is. But for now, can you show us around, said Naruto, not wanting to reveal that he was also the son of the fourth Hokage. He could already imagine their reaction. Tomorrow, I will give you a tour of our little camp. After that, I will show you to the training grounds that you will be using. You will also be told who will be training you, said Mei. She then glanced at her subordinate. Ao, would you be so kind as to bring them to the tent that I had you arrange for them? As Ao nodded in response. Do the two of you don't mind sharing a tent? I understand that some of your ages don't like sharing with the opposite sex, said Mei, as she noticed a big blush on both Naruto and Fu. I don't mind sharing a tent with Naruto-sama at all, I actually prefer that way, we're safer together, said Fu, as the blush on her face got bigger. As for Naruto, he didn't notice the blush on her face. I've got no problem with sharing a tent with Fu, and I agree with her, we'll be safer together, said Naruto, as the small blush on his face got a bit darker. As for Mei, she couldn't help but notice this right away. Ah, young love, it's a wonderful thing, she thought as Naruto and Fu followed her out of the tent. After a few minutes, Mei had shown Naruto and Fu their tent, they then said their good nights and headed to sleep. As for Mei, she then walked over to Zabuza's sword, which was still on the ground in front of the chair Naruto was sitting in earlier, and picked it up. I wonder who would be a suitable wielder. It would be nice if we could have two swordsmen, thought Mei as she began thinking of a wielder for the sword. And of a certain blonde who may be a bigger help in the rebellion. After the negations were done, Mei decided to take Naruto and Fu their tent before she gave them the tour of the base. After a couple of minutes, Mei showed them a pretty tent. But when Naruto and Fu entered the tent, they saw that there was only one bed with two pillows. Once the two saw that, a big blush went across both their faces. I'm actually gonna share a bed with Naruto-sama of all people. I can't believe it. Oh my god, I hope I don't snore or anything, or worst, what if I grab him while he's asleep, thought Fu as she continued to think of the possibilities. As for Naruto, he was a bit surprised as well. They're having us share a bed, why do I suddenly feel like I'm in one of Iro-san's books, thought Naruto, as they both entered the tent and put their things to the side. I hope this is alright with you, I assumed that the two of you were together, and I thought the two of you sharing a bed would be acceptable, said Mei, with a kind of voice as she looked at the two Jinchuriki. It's okay, could you give us a few minutes before we start the tour, asked Naruto as Mei nodded in agreement and left the two Jinchuriki alone for a moment. So Fu, what do you think of the deal we made? Since we're traveling together, you've got to say in what we do, said Naruto, wanting Fu to realize that she had the right to give her opinions and suggestions. Well, since you asked, Naruto-sama, I will tell you that we made the best deal that we could have, but I wish we didn't have to get involved in this rebellion. I just feel like they're just using as their weapons is all, said Fu as she sat on the bed. When Naruto heard that, he couldn't help but frown at what she had said. Then why didn't you say something about it? Did you think I wasn't gonna listen to you or something? Asked Naruto as he looked at Fu. After the deal we made, how could I refuse? I understand that we have to be of some use to them if we wanted to keep our lives, and once I think about it, I think that this could help us. Despite my hesitations of wanting to join this rebellion, I'm okay with it, plus I think doing something like this could something for us in the future, said Fu as she looked at Naruto. You mean just like the Akatsuki being mercenaries for jobs that any other shinobi wouldn't even take, said Naruto, a bit surprised at what Fu said. A little bit like them. I mean, if you think about it, I could work out. I mean, I trust you with my life, Naruto-sama, and you've saved my life a few times as it is, and I'm very sure that I could protect you from danger, said Fu, as Naruto didn't notice the blush Fu had as she spoke. Well, seeing as we have to help in this rebellion, I will take that into consideration. I have to first do a few things before I can come up with a final decision on it, said Naruto as Fu nodded in response. After a few minutes, Mei had entered the tent and looked at the Jinchuriki for a moment. You two look all settled in, are you ready for the tour? And also I need to your measurement, since you two have joined us you need with look like it, said Mei, as both Naruto and Fu agreed. Yeah, I'm ready for the tour, but Mei, do you think I could have a mask, just in case the Mizukage decided to hire some Konoha ninja, said Naruto, trying to play it safe. Me too as well, it'd be dangerous if either of our former villages saw us, said Fu as they looked at Mei. Ah yes, of course, I understand, we'll have some mask ready for you by tomorrow, as well as the uniforms. I'll have one of my men take your measurements, Naruto, as for you Fu, I'll have a woman take yours, so hurry and get the tour over with, said Mei, as Naruto and Fu agreed and followed her out of the tent. After an hour, Mei had showed them both the area, which was relatively boring for both participants, despite Mei's instance to speak cheerfully the entire time. The tour had actually been relatively plain, which was the primary reason that it had not inspired enthusiasm. It was exactly what one would expect of a military camp, after all. It mainly consisted of tents for the shinobi under Mei's command. The only area of the camp that was not covered by the tents of Mei's subordinates had been the very center of the camp. That was actually where Mei's tent, the infirmary tent, the armory, and the dining quarters were. Naruto mentally snorted at the last one. Mei had called that particular area the dining quarters, but it was really just a collection of cheap tables and chairs. He was broken from his musings as Mei came to a stop a few miles away from the camp. Now this is where you'll be able to train, this is the biggest part of the base, so you don't have to worry about an enemy showing up here, said Mei, as Naruto and Fu looked around, and as Mei explained, it was a large clearing surrounded in dense forest. The actual clearing was cut in half by a small river that flowed from the forest on one side of the clearing to the forest on the opposite side. Now before we begin your training, I'd like to test your affinities, said Mei, as she took out 2 small pieces of paper from her pouch and gave one to Naruto and Fu. Do you think you could explain what an affinity is, asked Naruto, and Mei and Ao looked surprised. How can you not know what an affinity is, for one that was responsible for Zabuza's death? I thought you would know, said Ao. Sorry, but I was too busy with dealing the betrayal of my village to understand what an affinity is, said Naruto in a serious voice as he looked at Ao. Didn't they teach you youngsters anything useful anymore? Why, back in my day that was one of the first lessons we learned, said Ao. Who knows, I must have slept though that class, and tell me, was that before or after you killed your classmates? Said Naruto, as both Mei and Ao were shocked to hear what Naruto just said. Naruto, not many people are familiar with the graduation exercise of the Bloody Mist village. How did you know about that, said Mei in a less cheerful voice. Kakashi-sensei told my team about it when we met Zabuza for the first time, replied Naruto. Why am I not surprised that the copy ninja knew that? Ao asked with a sigh. That's irrelevant, said Mei as she too sighed. Naruto, I'd ask you to refrain from bringing the graduation exercise up again, it's rude and we have work to do right now. Ao, would you like to explain to him what an affinity is? Said Mei as she looked at Ao. Yes, I will, my lady, replied Ao as cleared his throat before he began. You see, there are 5 basic types into which nature chakra can be transformed. These 5 types are also called elements and are not only the origin of the names of the 5 great shinobi countries, but also the foundation of all elemental ninjutsu. The 5 basic natures are all connected to each other in a circle, each being weaker than one and stronger than another. The first element is fire, which is strong against wind but weak against water. The second is wind, which is strong against lightning, but weak against fire. The third is lightning, which is strong against earth, but weak against wind. The fourth is earth, which is strong against water but weak against lightning. And the fifth is water, which is strong against fire, but weak against earth, said Ao, as he took a deep breath before continuing. Basically, this means that if an elemental jutsu is put against an elemental jutsu of the same level, but of a stronger nature, then the jutsu with a superior nature will prevail. However, a jutsu with a weaker nature can overpower a jutsu with a stronger nature if the former is of a higher level, said Ao as he went on. That is the explanation on the elements, at least. I'll move on to affinities now, said Ao, as Naruto felt like he was back in the academy and felt like taking a nap. In general, every person has chakra that has an affinity towards one of these types, a characteristic that seems to be genetic, since whole clans sometimes share the same affinity. Most members of the Uchiha clan, for example, had an affinity towards the fire nature, said Ao. This affinity makes it easier to learn how to create and control the nature in question, although even with an affinity this process will usually take any number of years. Shinobi are not limited to the nature they have an affinity to, though. By the time they reach the rank of Jounin, most shinobi have mastered 2 natures. However, because of the difficulty of mastering a nature and the time required to learn it, it is almost impossible to master all 5 natures in a normal way, said Ao. To find out what affinity someone has, pieces of paper made from a special type of tree are used that react to even the slightest hint of chakra in any of a number of ways, depending on the nature latent in the chakra. Ao as he continued again. For those with a fire affinity, their paper will ignite and turn to ash. For those with a wind affinity, their paper will split in 2. For those with a lightning affinity, their paper will wrinkle. For those with an earth affinity, their paper will turn to dirt and crumble away. And for those with a water affinity, their paper will become wet or damp, and that's the long and the short of it, said Ao as he was finally done speaking. As for Naruto, he blinked a few times at that explanation. He had to admit that he had not understood all of it, but he had actually managed to understand a fair bit of what the hunter nin had said. That made more sense than when I heard it the first time, said Fu, reminding everyone that she was there. You already know about affinities? Mei asked curiously. It was one of the few things my sensei taught me, Fu said with a single nod. I'm a water type, but I only have 1 water jutsu, she replied. Would that be the water sword that you were holding when my subordinate confronted you? Asked Ao, earning another nod from Fu. That makes things easy, said Mei. She then handed only one of the pieces of paper that she held to Naruto. Channel your chakra into it, she said as Naruto nodded in response. After a couple moments had passed, the piece of paper Naruto was holding spilt in two. Instantly Naruto and Fu heard a curse from Mei. "What's wrong?" asked Naruto, immediately worried. "You're a wind type. Wind is a relatively rare element in this country. I don't actually know anyone that knows wind jutsu, to be honest," said Mei. "That means that I won't be able to arrange someone to teach you to use jutsu of your affinity," she also said. Naruto got a worried look on his face. "Is it possible for me to learn another element?" asked Naruto, waiting for a response. "That's unheard of, you youngster, learning another element before you learn your original one. It's unthinkable," said Ao as he looked at Naruto. "I've done the impossible. It's nothing new to me, for example the Rasengan, Iro-sanin, and that old hag both thought I couldn't learn it in a week, and I did. It took the fourth Hokage 3 years to learn it, and he's the one who made it, so you telling it's impossible for me to learn a new element before I control my original is crap," said Naruto as he looked at both Mei and Ao. As for Fu, she couldn't help but blush at his determination. "It is possible though if I think about it. Is there a certain element that you want to learn?" asked Mei as she looked at Naruto. As for Naruto, he thought for a moment. He then sadly remembered when Sasuke had used mostly fire techniques on him. They had fought at the Valley of the End. What Naruto didn't notice was the fact that Mei, Ao and Fu had noticed a sad expression. "I wonder what he's thinking. From that expression I think I just brought back some painful memories," thought Mei as she looked at the young blonde. "Do you think you could teach me some fire jutsu? From what I've experienced, fire jutsu are very powerful," said Naruto as the three wondered what Naruto was just thought. But Fu already had an idea of what possibly. "You would pick that element, wouldn't you, seeing as I'm the only fire user in the camp? But yes, I think I can teach you a few of them as well as some taijutsu as well," said Mei as she looked at both Naruto and Fu, who had a cheerful expression on their faces. "But Lady Terumi is that wise to train them personally? Don't you think someone should teach them a few other things before you train them?" said Ao, knowing as leader of the rebellion, she had way more responsibilities. "I won't be training them just yet, Ao. It will take some time to gather all the information I need for assignments that I will have them do," said Mei as she continued. "Now Naruto and Fu, you will have a few months to train, and it starts tomorrow. I will also introduce you to your sensei as well," said Mei. As for Ao, he was hoping it wasn't gonna be him. "My lady, who exactly is gonna train them? Most of our men and women are on assignment," said Ao. "Don't worry, Ao, it's not you. I already got an assessment for you as it is. I will need to speak to tomorrow about it," said Mei as Ao got the hint to leave. "So Mei, who is gonna be our sensei?" asked Fu. "His name is Shijuru. He is one of the best in the rebellion, and I think he'll do a splendid job with your training," said Mei as she looked at them. "Fu, do you think you can give Naruto a moment? There's something I need to ask him, and it's a bit personal," said Mei as both Naruto and Fu looked surprised. Fu was just about to disagree until Naruto gave her a nod. After that Fu headed back to the tent. "So what was it that you wanted to speak to me about?" asked Naruto, seeing as they were the only two in the forest. "Well, you see, Naruto, I had a few questions about why there's an reward out for you and Fu, but I decided to ask you first, and secondly, I wanted to know why you had that sad expression on your face when I asked you about what element you wanted to learn," asked Mei, already know part of the reason why there was an reward for them, but she felt like there was another reason beyond that. As for Naruto, he was a bit surprised when he heard what she asked. But since she was giving him some training, he thought that she should know a bit more about him. "I can't tell you everything just yet, because even I don't know how I can explain it. Everything just sorta happened," said Naruto in a sad voice as he looked at Mei. Mei looked at him for a moment and wondered what it was going through his head. "I understand, but can you at least tell me a bit about it? From what I can tell it looks like whatever happened is tearing you apart in the inside," said Mei in a caring voice. As for Naruto, he took a deep breath before he continued. "Earlier when me and Fu were tied up, you said that there was an reward for the two of us, right?" said Naruto. "Right," she replied, not knowing where the conversation was heading. "Can you tell me what the Leaf Village report said about me?" asked Naruto. "It said that you were an unstable ninja and that you escaped from your village. It also said that you were possibly insane as well," said Mei, as she didn't believe that report one bit, seeing as Naruto didn't look insane. That or he was a very good actor. "I see, so that's what they put. I shouldn't be surprised by that," said Naruto as he looked up at the sky for a moment before he continued. "Also, you've heard of Kakashi's Chidori as well, I assume," said Naruto as he looked at Mei. "Yes, I have. I heard that it was an assassin's technique. I also heard that not many people live from it. But what does this have to do with a reward for you?" said Mei, not seeing the connection it had just yet. "You see, before I was thrown out of the ninja crops, I was teamed up with Kakashi as my teacher and Sasuke Uchiha and Sakura Haruno as my teammates. As it turns out, Kakashi taught Sasuke the Chidori so he could beat Gaara Sand Ninja in the Chunin exams. But before that, during the first part of the Chunin exam, we were in the forest of death. There we encountered Orochimaru. He ended up biting Sasuke's neck and gave him the cruise mark," said Naruto as he clenched his fists together. Mei noticed it right away but let him continued. Soon after that me and Sasuke fought on top of a hospital roof, but Kakashi-sensei stopped us. Sometime after that happened he betrayed the village and went in search for Orochimaru for power. Me and a few friends of mine went to stop him. They ended up fighting a few of Orochimaru's ninja, and that's when me and Sasuke ended up at the Valley of the End, said Naruto as he looked at Mei. After that Naruto explained the whole fight to her. He also explained how Sasuke went level 2 cruise mark, while he went into one-tailed state as he went on telling her about the battle. Mei was stunned to find out just how strong Naruto really was. Judging from what she was being told, his and the Uchiha's powerful level were way beyond a genin level. She was also stunned to hear that the Uchiha had stabbed him twice with the Chidori and lived. From what I'm being told about him and the Uchiha, their power levels are unheard of. Using that much power, it sounds like they were at least Jounin level at that moment to go into a level 2 cruise mark from and one-tailed state only for it to end in a tie. It's unbelievable, thought Mei as she started to wonder why the Leaf Village wanted him back so badly. But as Naruto continued on, she had to interrupt him. Naruto, from what you're telling me so far, you and the Uchiha fought and ended in a tie. But that doesn't explain why they said that you're unstable and insane. Seeing you right now, you don't look like neither, said Mei as Naruto smiled at the comment. They blamed me for him leaving, and from what I was told I was being kicked out because I was mentally unstable. With everything that has happened to me since I was born, they thought it was just a matter of time before I went crazy, said Naruto. So they kicked you out because you failed to bring back the Uchiha, and because of that they deemed you mentally unstable. But that doesn't explain how you escaped. It wasn't mentioned in the report, asked Mei. Kakashi-sensei helped me. He didn't agree with the old hag and the council about me being mentally unstable, so he helped me. That was when he gave me the scroll from Iro-sanin. He also told me something else before we started, said Naruto, still deciding if he was gonna tell her who his parents were. What was it? She asked. He told me who my mother and father was, said Naruto with a worried look on his face. Who were they? She asked. Sorry Mei, I can't reveal that information right now. I'm actually still coming with terms with it myself. With everything that has happened, I just need some time to deal with it, said Naruto, hoping she would understand. These parents must be important if the village is willing to put such an reward for his return, and from what he just said he must have been an orphan and just recently found out who they were, thought Mei as she looked at Naruto. Okay Naruto, I fully understand from what you told me, but when you do come in terms with who your parents are, could you tell me? She asked. Sure, no problem. Trust me, when I do tell you you're gonna be very surprised, said Naruto in cheerful voice. But I do have another question, said Mei as she stood there. What is it? He replied. Well, seeing as you're both a Jinchuriki, I'm not surprised that they're doing everything in their power to get you back. You see, Jinchuriki are very valuable to a village. But anyways, the question is, what if the Mizukage did hire some Konoha ninja and they end up being your friends? What will you do? Asked Mei, knowing it'd be hard for him to reply. Surprising to her, Naruto replied quickly, that depends really. There were a few so-called friends that I had back at the Leaf, but if it happens to be them, I'll deal with that once it gets there, said Naruto with a bit of coldness in his voice. As for Mei, she was hoping that the Mizukage didn't hire any Konoha ninja. Okay Naruto, that's all I wanted to know. You can head back to your tent now and be sure to get a lot of rest. You're gonna be busy for a while, said Mei as she smiled at him. I will, and thank you Mei, he replied as headed back to his tent. As he walked back to his tent, he felt a bit of relief to talk what had happened between him and his so-called best friend. As for Mei, she went back to the tent where Naruto and Fu were tied up. She then saw Zabuza's sword on the side of the chair. She then kneeled down and looked at it. Who would have that? I would get 2 Jinchuriki. I have to say I feel sorry for the Leaf, thought Mei. Now who would be a great welder for this sword, she thought as she began to think it over. During the night in Naruto's mind, after everything that had happened yesterday, both Naruto and Fu were fast asleep. As Naruto was sleeping, the Kyuubi took this chance to have a little chat with his young container. So as Naruto was having a lovely dream about kicking Sasuke's ass and the Leaf Village begging for him back, the Kyuubi decided to ruin it by instantly having Naruto fall into a black hole and putting him in front of his cage. Hey boy, it's time we have a chat, said Kyuubi as Naruto wiped his eyes before looking up at the Kyuubi inside his cage. Huh? Why the hell am I here for? And why did you ruin my freaking dream? I was having such a good one, said Naruto angry at the Kyuubi. Look boy, I could care less about your dream, but it's time we've had a talk, said Kyuubi as he looked at his container. What about? What's on your mind? And can we make this quick? My training begins in just a few hours, and I don't want to spend all my time talking to you, said Naruto, really wanting to get back to sleep. Look boy, as much as I hate doing this, I'm gonna help you, seeing as that stupid Leaf Village doesn't know the difference between an unstable person and stable person. I'm gonna help you show them what they had, said the Kyuubi as he continued to look at his container. As for Naruto, he was surprised to hear what the Kyuubi just told him. And why are you gonna help me? You've never cared about what happened to me before, asked Naruto. Believe me boy, I got my own reasons for hating that village, so I think that if we work together, we can show that miserable excuse for a village that you ain't no weakling, said Kyuubi. And what exactly do I get out of this? I mean you're right, I do want to show them that I'm not a weakling and that underestimated me for too long, but again what do I get from you, asked Naruto. Well, for starters kid, you'll be able to use my charka whenever you want, seeing as a bit of my charka is already mixing with your own. I'll be able to give you a bit more, but only if you want it. I can't force it on you, you have to accept it willingly. Secondly, my charka will help you with all of your justices, all of them will be slightly stronger than before. And lastly, with me being sealed in you I can help with your training. Since I am the strongest Biju, I know a lot of stuff that those sorry pathetic excuse for Cage could only dream of, said Kyuubi, hoping his container would take his offer. And how exactly do I know that you're telling the truth? For all I know this could be a trap, after all foxes are known for being tricky, said Naruto. Boy, believe me when I say this, your father really knew his stuff about seals. At this moment, even with all my power, the seal has a hold on me, I cannot break it, so pretty much you've got control of my power, and why not use it if you have it, said the Kyuubi, telling him the truth. You knew I was the fourth Hokage son, how? Asked Naruto. I'll tell you when I have more respect for you, and one more thing since you're here, what exactly are your plans with that girl that holds the 7 tails? Asked Kyuubi curiously. What do you mean by plan? Asked Naruto. I mean, what do you plan to do with her? Are you gonna mate with her? Or what? Seeing as you two are Jinchuriki, it's only fitting you should mate with one of your own, said Kyuubi, slightly feeling sorry for the other containers since there were only 2 female Biju. You do realize that we're only 13, right? I just can't mate with her, whatever that means, said Naruto, as the Kyuubi looked a bit surprised when Naruto said he didn't know what mate meant. Boy, you're stupid as ever. Are you seriously telling me that you don't know what mate means? And secondly, who the hell cares how old you are? Boy, when I was your age, I already had all the strongest demon women after me, so this is no different. You're gonna stand there and tell me that you don't have any feeling towards that girl, said Kyuubi. Well, I just met her a few days ago, alright, besides I don't even know if she likes me like that, and another thing, why do you care if I do or don't have feeling for her, asked Naruto. Look kid, I've been sealed inside you for 13 fucking years. I haven't been with a woman since then, so when I see a chance for my container to finally get some, you better bet your ass I'm gonna take it. So tell me right here right now kid, what do you feel for that girl? Because I know Chomei, and believe me when I say this, she the type to get what she wants. And I got the feeling you better be on your guard, said Kyuubi, hoping the kid knew what he was talking about. As for Naruto, he just stood there wondering what the Kyuubi was talking about. Fu was in the same predicament that Naruto was in, she was also in front of her beast having a chat in Fu's mindscape. Okay, you want me to do what exactly? Said Fu as she couldn't believe what her tailed beast was saying. Look girl, seeing as you're gonna be training with Kurama's container, I think it's time for you get a little closer to him, as much as possible, said Chomei. But what you asking me to do is pretty much seduce him, plus I'm only 13, I'm not ready for that just yet, said Fu as she looked at her beast. I don't see the harm in it, and besides you've been thinking about him ever since that day at the waterfall. You wanted to talk to him so badly that you nearly went crazy just thinking about it, but when you finally got the nerve to, he left. Plus fate helped you as well. If that village never would have kicked him out, he wouldn't have been there to save you. So I say take this chance before it's too late, said Nanabi. I don't know, I mean I just can't plan out and tell him how I feel. We just met, can't we just be friends for now and see what happened? Besides we're traveling together as it is, we'll have a lots for time to know each other, said Fu as blushed a little. Girl, you're already sleeping with the boy. Are you telling me you don't see the situation you're in right now? You don't know this since you're in your own mind, but the boy already has his arms around you as it is, and your head is on his chest as it is, so I say screw with a long and patient way. I say it's time you claim him as yours now, said Chomei as she looked at her container. I'll do it my way, not yours. I'm sure he'll develop some feeling for me at least, and also aren't you and Kurama brother and sister or something? Seeing as you're both tailed beast, asked Fu. Hell no, we're not. We may be Biju, but we're not related in any way. We were both rulers of the demon world. Other demons ran when they heard any one of our names close by, but for now I'll let it go your way, plus I will help you in your training, said Chomei in a calm voice. And why would you start helping now? If you've had this chance to help me, why didn't you before? Asked Fu, icing if she really trusted her tailed beast or not. I have my reasons, girl. Now since I'm sealed in you, you've got a natural ability to use insects, just like there are some clans that can use them as well. You'll have a natural ability to understand them more than others do, plus you'll be able to use bug substitutions and use your insects to observe areas from any distance, said Chomei, making sure her container understood her. Okay, I'm with you so far, but what about your charka? Will me able to use that as well? Asked Fu. Of course you will, but I suggest you don't use it during your training. Use it when you're either sparring with Kurama's container or when you're alone, it's best that way, plus I'll be able to help you, said Chomei. Okay, anything else I got to know? I do want to get some rest before my training starts, said Fu as she looked at Nanabe. Don't worry girl, you're still technically asleep. Well, you're in your own mind, it's like you're dreaming, and besides time in here is different time out there. So for example 1 hour in here would only be 5 minutes out there, so you got plenty of time. Now that we got that out of the way, what are your other plans? Said Chomei as Fu looked surprised. Plans? She replied. Yeah, what are your plans? Other than trying to bag Kurama's container, what else do you plan to do? You've heard what that kid wanted, he wants to prove himself, he basically wants that village to regret what they did to him, but you I'm not sure about and I'm sealed in you, you'd think I know already, said Chomei. Well, seeing as you asked, I want the same thing, you've seen what they've done to me every day since I was 3, the stares, the names, people chasing me just because they saw me as a demon, but now I also want to show them what they had, they forced me to become a ninja, just so I could be used as a weapon. I want to show them that I've become a great ninja without their help, said Fu with determination in her eyes. I see, okay girl, I will help you achieve that goal. Whenever you're done with your training I will train you when you sleep, and if I know anything about Kurama, he might be doing the same thing with his container, but before we start your training, I've got to change your charka a bit, said Chomei as she looked at Fu. Change my charka? How are you gonna do that, asked Fu, surprised at what the Nanabe had said. Simple, since I've been sealed inside you, you've had a charka reserve for my charka in case you ever used it. Normally that reserve and your own were mixing together, making your charka a bit stronger than normal. So now I'm gonna add a bit more of my charka into yours, making it stronger. So no, for example, whenever you make that water sword, it's gonna be stronger and better than before. It won't go to waste in one strike, you'll be had to use it longer, said Chomei. So now whenever I use a jutsu it's gonna be stronger than it normally was, said Fu. Yup, pretty much. Now I'm done talking for now, I need my rest as well. And don't worry, you'll just go back to that dream you were having earlier before I sent you here, and I have to say for a 13-year-old girl, you got quite the imagination, said Chomei as Fu blushed at what she said. But before Fu could say anything the Seven Tails cut their connection. Back with Naruto and Kurama. Okay, so I pretty much get all of it, but are you sure I have to do this? Can't I just wait until Iro-san contacts me, said Naruto. Now sitting down as he looked at the Kyuubi. Look kid, as of right now you're training with whoever that lady gives you, and I know you could learn a few things from that pervert, but still this will help you with your training, and it's now like you'll die or anything, said Kurama as he looked at his container. I suppose you're right, but can we start it once I'm done training and done with this rebellion? I don't want to show them everything I can do, it's best to keep some secret, said Naruto as he looked at Kyuubi. As you wish boy, I've got all the time in the world, but before you go I will give you one lesson before you awaken, you got that, said Kyuubi. No problem furball, I can handle anything you throw at me, said Naruto, as Kurama couldn't help but wonder where all this confidence came from. The next day, after the talk, Kurama and Chomei, both Naruto and Fu, awoke to find 2 pairs of clothes on their bed. Once they picked them up, they realized that they were standard armored Anbu uniforms, Kurigakure version. Both Naruto and Fu wondered why Mei had given them these kind of clothes to wear. After thinking about it for a few minutes, the two decided to take turns getting dressed. For Naruto, exited the tent and waited for Fu to change. When Fu exited a few minutes later, Naruto changed into his clothes, and the two soon headed to the training area. Once there, Naruto and Fu saw both Mei and another person next to her. Good morning you two, are you ready for your training, said Mei, as she smiled at Naruto and Fu. Hell yeah, I'm ready, I can't wait to start. But Mei, how come you got us wearing Anbu uniforms, said Naruto as he looked at Mei. The reason why I have you two wearing them is because you had a point in what you said about the Mizukage hiring Konoha ninja, so just in case it's better if you act like Hunter Nin, and you also have the masks you asked to conceal your identity, said Mei. Now I would also like you to meet you teacher, this is CHMJKRM, said Mei as a boy who looked around the same age of both Naruto and Fu, having short tufty blue hair and dark eyes. He also had pointed, shark-like teeth. He also wore square, black-rimmed glasses connected to what appeared to be headphones, a blue pin-striped shirt and camouflage-patterned pants. Also, he wears his forehead protector on the front of his holster. Also, both Naruto and Fu noticed something wrapped in bandages, leaving only the double hilt visible. He also had his shuriken holsters strapped onto each of his legs. Hello, it's nice to meet you both. Lady Terumi has told me many things about the two of, said Chijuro as he looked at them. Hi, it's nice to meet you as well, Chijuro. So what kind of training will you be giving us today, said Naruto as he looked at CHMJKRM. Please tell is, you must be super strong, seeing as Mei choose you to train us, said Fu as Chijuro blushed a bit. Well, I am skilled with a sword, and I could also teach you guys to harness your charka into certain weapons. I can also help you too with basic charka control, and anything else Lady Terumi wishes for me to teach you, said Chijuro in a soft voice. Wow, I can't wait, let's start already, said Naruto as he punched his fist into the air. Me too, replied Fu, excited about finally training. Hold on you two just a moment, said Mei as she rained on Naruto's and Fu's parade. Now before you start your training, I would like to see how well you use your jutsu Naruto, seeing as you know the shadow clone technique, I would like to see how good you are at using it, so before I give you the mission I would like you and CHMJKRM to spar, said Mei, as Naruto looked a little surprised. What do you exactly mean? I can use it perfectly, I've managed to defeat most people with it, said Naruto. That's not what I mean, Naruto. You see, there's a reason why most people don't know that technique, because the user has to build up their chakra very quickly to use the technique, a normal person can only made a few, and only for a short time. I'm personally surprised that the Leaf Village would even teach it to you, said Mei as she looked at Naruto. They didn't teach it to me, you see. I failed the Academy 3 times before I became a genin. I couldn't do a sample clone technique, so one of the teachers there named Mizuki told me if I stole the forbidden scroll from the village, I could become stronger, so my stupid self believed him and stole it, but before I was gonna hand it to him, I took a look inside. There I found the Mult Shadow Clone Jutsu, said Naruto as he didn't feel like finishing the whole story. I see, I was actually starting to wonder how you learned it. Anyways, as I was saying before, I just want to see how many clone you can make and how long they can last. I have a mission for the two of you coming up soon and I could sure use that technique, said Mei as she looked at Naruto. I can make thousands if I wanted it, that was how I beat Gaara of the Sand when Orochimaru attacked the Leaf Village, said Naruto as Mei looked surprised at what he said. Thousands? You can literally make thousands of shadow clones, what else can you do? Asked Mei. Well, if you want to know that, then you better keep a close eye on this bear, said Naruto as Mei, Fu and CHMJKRM looked at Naruto. After a few minutes both Mei and Fu took a few steps back as Naruto and CHMJKRM then got ready to spare. Back at the Leaf Village Root HQ, as Naruto and Chijuro were sparing, the old war hawk Danzo Shimura, the leader of the disbanded Anbu faction named Root, was sitting down, thinking his last course of action on obtaining the Nine Tails power. Danzo didn't expect that Jiraiya of all people would put a stop to Naruto's retrieval, plus he didn't think that Jiraiya would have the Federal Lord of all people to sign off on it. Maybe I should put the same Jinjutsu I used on Inoichi on the Federal Lord as well, I have to obtain that power before the other countries find out, thought Danzo as he began to think. After a few minutes he called for two of the best Root members he had. FK Torin, said Danzo as instantly two figures kneeled down before him. Yes my lord, you called, said Fu as he looked at Danzo. How's your search for the Nine Tails Jinchuriki? He asked. It's been unsuccessful my lord. Me and Torin went all the way to the border in search for him, but no luck, said FK. Torin, have the sensors been able to pick him up, asked Danzo. Yes they have my lord, but judging from where it came from, I say he was headed towards Kiri, but sir if I may ask, what would be the point if the Federal Lord himself cancelled his retrieval, said Torin. Well, the council and the Federal Lord are a bunch of fools. They don't realize that if the other countries got their hands on the Jinchuriki, it would be disasters, so I want you to gather two teams of the best members we have. I don't care what it takes, we must bring the Jinchuriki back and extract the Biju from him and seal it into one of our own. Now go, said Danzo as Fu and Torin then instantly left. No one will stop my plan, I will be the one who controls this world, I will be the one who brings our world of darkness into a new era, thought Danzo as he began to think of the next step of his plan. Back to Naruto and CHMJKRM an hour later. Naruto and CHMJKRM had been sparring for about an hour. Naruto had then jumped back as his two last shadow clones had just easily gotten defeated, and CHMJKRM was a bit surprised that Naruto was actually handling himself pretty against him. Both Mei and Fu were also a bit surprised as well. To see Naruto use both an A and B rank jutsu in a matter of seconds was surprising. What was even more surprising was the fact that his clones could also use the Rasengan as well. Naruto was just about to make more clones until Mei raised her hand and told them to stop. Okay, good work you two, I think that's enough sparring for one day. Now Naruto, I have to say that I'm impressed for you to use both the Shadow Clone Jutsu and that Rasengan in a matter of seconds, but from what I saw you use too much Charka when making your clones, so today, you both will be working on your Charka control, said Mei as she looked at Naruto and Fu. Exactly how do you want us to do that? Asked Fu as she looked at Mei. Well, the best way that I can see it is that you two need to learn how to infuse your Charka into a weapon. I've brought a few Charka infused weapons with me, said Mei as she took out a scroll and unwrapped it. Soon a few regular swords popped out. Mei then handed Naruto and Fu a sword. Okay, now seeing as we have much to teach you and so little time, we're gonna spend a few weeks on this, so I want you both to concentric your Charka into these swords. After a few hours I want to see how your progress is coming along, said Mei. But I don't get it, what's adding Charka to a sword gonna help us with Charka control? Asked Naruto as he looked at the sword in his hands. CHMJKRM, can you please explain that to Naruto while I'm gone? I have some work that I need done, I will return once I'm done, said Mei. Yes Lady Terumi, replied Chijuro as Mei left. You see Naruto, when charka is added to a weapon it can make the sword or kunai even shrunken sharper and stronger. Depending on the person's charka control it can become a deadly weapon, and not only charka can be added to the weapon, but an element as well, said Chijuro, as he looked at Naruto and Fu. So you just want us to concentric our charka into these swords, how exactly is that gonna help our charka control? I thought the walking on water and trees exercises were supposed to help with that, asked Fu. You're right, those exercises are supposed to help with your charka control, but this as well can help. You have to be able to make your charka thinner and sharper. If you use too much charka on your weapon, the more exhausted you'll become. So please being, said Chijuro as Naruto and Fu sat down and started to concentric their charka into their swords. After several minutes had passed, both Naruto's and Fu's hands started to glow a bright blue. Soon the charka started to engulf the sword. Naruto and Fu then looked at their sword in amazement. Like this, right, said Naruto as he looked at Chijuro. Yeah, that's right, but you're using too much charka, you have to try and use less charka, but not bad for a first try, said Chijuro, as he then looked at Fu's sword. To his surprise, Fu had used a less amount of charka, unlike Naruto. Very good, Fu, on your first try as well, but still, try to use less and try to make it thinner, said Chijuro as he looked at them. But Chijuro-sensei, how will we know when he have it right? Asked Naruto. Once your charka forms around the sword perfectly, that's when you'll know, so continue the process, said CHMJKRM. After a few hours had passed, both Naruto and Fu had already started making some progress. Chijuro could see that Fu had good charka control. Even though she hadn't had training at it, she was still very good. As for Naruto, Chijuro could tell that Naruto was having trouble. He noticed that Naruto would put too much charka into the sword and it would cause the charka to rapidly engulf the sword. Naruto, you need to focus more, you're using too much charka, said Chijuro. But I'm using less charka than I normally am. I'm using less charka than I normally use for the shadow clone technique, said Naruto, as he took a deep breath and started to concentrate. I wonder just how big his charka reserves are for him to be using this large amount of charka, and it's still not perfectly forming around the sword. It's nonsense. I see his biggest problem is that he has too much power, but not the skill to use it, thought CHMJKRM as he looked at Naruto. Okay Naruto, I want you to use the same amount of charka you used to make one clone, after that I want you to slowly concentrate, said CHMJKRM, hoping his theory was right. Okay CHMJKRM sensei, said Naruto as he closed his eyes and started to use more charka. Soon both CHMJKRM and Fu saw the charka form around the sword. It looked like the sword was surrounded by a blue flame. Is this really how much charka he uses to make just one clone? Thought Chijuro as he looked at Naruto's sword. Wow, Naruto-sama is amazing, he used that much charka on a daily basis. I wonder how much he uses when he makes over a dozen, thought Fu as she looked at Naruto. Okay now Naruto, imitation the charka perfectly formed around the sword. Make sure you don't lose your train of thought, said Chijuro as he looked at Naruto. As for Naruto, he was doing what Chijuro asked. He imaged the sword perfectly covered in his charka. He then slowly started breathing normally as he stayed in what looked like a meditation state. Soon both Chijuro and Fu noticed that the sword that was covered in his charka slowly started to take shape. But every couple of seconds the charka would lose its shape. But surely after that happened it would take shape once more. Maybe I should give Naruto a few more charka excesses, that way he'll be used to it and it would be easier for him to concentrate his charka into the sword, thought Chijuro as he looked at the sword. Okay Naruto, that's enough, you can stop now, said CHMJKRM as he broke Naruto concentration. But why, I almost had it, let me try it one more time, I'm sure I can do it, said Naruto. Don't worry, you'll have another chance Naruto, but for now let's head back to camp. I have to tell Lady Mei about your progress, said Chijuro as Naruto and Fu stood up and followed him back to camp. Once they got back to camp, Chijuro headed to Mei's tent as Naruto and Fu headed to the eating area. After a few minutes Chijuro had entered her tent only to see her reading a few reports from some of the guards. Lady Terumi, I've come to give you my report, said Chijuro as he looked at Mei. Ah yes, I forgot about that, I had just gotten a few reports and it slipped my mind, so tell me Chijuro, how did it go, asked Mei. Well, I can tell you that Fu has some kind of charka control. She was close to forming the charka around the sword perfectly. I give her a few more days and she'll be able to do it. As for Naruto, I think he needs more charka control exercises. I see that he has a lot of power, but no skill whatsoever, but he was able to form the charka around the sword somewhat, said Chijuro as he looked at Mei. Do you think Naruto will be able to form it perfectly in the time frame I told them? Asked Mei. Probably, my lady, from what I saw he uses a lot of charka, more than what is usually used, but I do have a theory though, said CHMJKRM. And what would that be? She asked. Well, I was thinking about letting him use his clones as part of his training, since he uses so much charka for his shadow clone technique. I thought the best solution would be for him to create a certain number of clones, while at the same time he concentrated his charka to the sword, said Chijuro. I see very well you can try that, but also have the clones he makes concentrate their charka to a sword as well. The shadow clone technique wasn't only for recon missions, and also have Naruto teach it to Fu as well. We need to speed up their training. From what I've read the Mizukage may be planning an attack soon, said Mei, as she looked at Chijuro. Yes my lady, but if I may ask why did you choose me to train them? I have just completed my own basic training with my own weapon. Don't you think it was a bit out of the blue to assign me to train 2 kids my age, said Chijuro. Well in due time CHMJKRM you'll see that they're more than just mere kids such as yourself, but I trust you'll do fine. Besides 2 kids have a lot of people after them, so they need all the training they can get, said Mei as her and Chijuro continued to talk. Meanwhile at Kurigakure, as Mei and Chijuro were talking the Mizukage was looking out his window, thinking of his next phase of attack. Yagura knew that Mei would attack soon enough, but he wanted to make sure that he had the element of surprise. He also knew that her little rebellion would stand no chance of defeating him, since he had full control over his Biju. I wonder when she'll attack, she knows she has no chance of defeating me, she'll be put in her place. She has underestimated my strength for the last time, thought Yagura as he looked out his window. After some time has passed a few hunter nin had made themselves know. Lord Mizukage, we haven't found the rebellion central base yet, what are your orders, said one of the hunter nin. How far has your search gone, asked Yagura as he still looked out his window. We're still searching my lord, we haven't crossed the border just yet my lord. I can tell we're close to finding the base, said once the hunter nin. Also when searching for the base a few Anbu from Konoha had come by, they meant no harm and were no allies of the rebellion. They gave us this scroll with instructions to give this to you, said another one of the hunter nin as he gave Yagura the scroll. After a few seconds Yagura opened the scroll and began to read it. Soon Yagura's expression went from calm to a bit surprised as he continued to read the scroll. Now this is some interesting news, thought Yagura, as he then looked at the hunter nin. Okay, keep your search going, we must find the rebellion as soon as possible, said Yagura as the hunter nin then all nodded in response and left. After several minutes had passed a strange mysterious figure came from behind the window and entered the Mizukage's office. The figure was wearing a black cloak with red clouds on it. The figure also had a mask with only one hole to see out through. The figure then went up to the Mizukage and took the scroll from him and began to read it. Soon what appeared to be a Sharingan could be seen from the mask. Now this is some interesting news, said the mysterious figure in a clam. 2 months later, it's been 2 months since both Naruto and Fu decided to travel with each other. And decided to join forces with Mei in the rebellion to stop the Mizukage. During the past 2 months both Naruto and Fu learned how to infuse their charka into a sword. Plus Mei even taught Naruto and Fu some fire jutsu as well. Surprisingly Naruto was able to learn fire jutsu pretty quickly, it was all thanks to the shadow clones technique. Mei's theory about him using the clones to fasten their training worked perfectly, it had worked so well that Naruto taught it to Fu, so they both could learn quickly. But sadly with all the training and all the work they had to do to help the rebellion, Naruto and Fu really didn't get time to know each other. But they promised each other that once the rebellion was over, they would spend some time together and they would get to know the other. At this moment Naruto, Fu, Mei and Chijuro were at the training area. Mei and Chijuro were watching Naruto and Fu sparring with each other with a charka-infused sword in their hands. Mei couldn't help but to be impressed by their progress. She couldn't believe that the 2 kids that she met 2 months ago would turn out like this. She also started to think of asking them to join their village once the rebellion was over. But as she was lost in thought, Ao had suddenly came running towards them with his Byakugan showing. Lady Terumi, I have urgent news. The Mizukage has found the base, he's headed this way, said Ao as Naruto and the others had just heard the news. You're sure about this? How long do we have before he shows up, asked Mei in a serious voice. If I had to take a guess I would say minutes my lady, replied Ao. Ao, I want you and a few of the Jonin to gather all of the people and protect them as best you can. Be sure that none of Yagura's soldiers get near them. Also be sure to have all the medic nin on alert, said Mei as Ao nodded in response as Mei, Naruto, Fu and Chijuro then ran towards the base. Also my lady, I noticed something strange with the Mizukage, said Ao as they all ran towards the base. When I noticed the Mizukage and his soldiers coming I noticed a very strong Jinjutsu placed on him, said Ao as Mei looked surprised. You're sure about this? She asked. Positive, but it was too powerful to break, replied Ao as everyone saw the base in their sight. Naruto, Fu, once we get to the base put on your mask. Also I have an idea, I'm gonna try and lead Yagura away from the base. I want you both to follow me, but make sure you're hidden until I give you the signal, got that? Chijuro, I want you to help out with the citizens, make sure that no one gets near them, said Mei as Naruto, Fu and Chijuro nodded in response as they finally arrived to the base minutes later. Once everyone arrived to the base they saw some of Yagura's soldiers setting some of the tents on fire. Mei saw some of the people trying to run toward safety as the soldier have tried to burn down the base. Instantly both Ao and Chijuro headed towards the burning base, trying to get some of the people to safety as they also took some of the soldiers down. Mei then went into the base defeating as many of Yagura's soldiers as possible. But soon a kunai came out of nowhere and went right past Mei's face. She then turned around to see where it came from, but then 3 more kunai came out from the tree. Mei dodged them easily. "Yagura, come out from hiding and fight me," yelled Mei as she looked around. "You know it took me a while to find this base of yours. I have to say that I'm impressed you managed to hide from me for so long," said Yagura as Mei tried to find out where it was coming from. "Hey, why won't you show yourself? Are you scared of fighting me? Why don't you come out and show me how strong you really are," said Mei, hoping Yagura would show himself. "Very well, since you sound convincingly about it, here I am," said Yagura as Mei then turned around to see Yagura come from behind a tree, soon a young man. With messy gray hair, pink pupilless eyes and what seems to be a stitch-like scar running from under his left eye all the way down his cheek. He had a dull expression as usual as he wore a gray undershirt with short mesh sleeves, which has a metal plate of a Kurigakure forehead protector sewn onto it, over which he also wears a green poncho, a turquoise sash around his waist, paired with a green ingement over his pants. He also wore a pair of brown boots opened on the back, and on his back, he carried a staff-like pole weapon with uneven hooks with a green flower on the end of the larger hook. I don't know how old he was, so I'm thinking in his 20s. "Are you gonna surrender, Mei? You don't stand a chance against me. It's best you give up now. And if you, I'll personally make your death quick and painless," said Yagura. "You haven't won anything, Yagura. So cut the small talk and let's settle this like ninja," said Mei as he ran towards Yagura. Mei then tried to sow a sidekick, but Yagura easily dodged. Mei quickly rushed back, making sure Yagura didn't try to attack her. But when Mei forward, she saw that Yagura was there anymore. "It's futile to fight me, Mei, you should just give up," said Yagura as Mei turned her head around, but Yagura was too quick for her. Yagura then hit Mei's side with his left hand as hard as he could, causing her to crash into him bushes. Yagura then walked towards Mei, but surprisingly when he went to see her, he noticed that she was gone. Yagura didn't even get the chance to be surprised because Mei they quickly came from the side and did a spin kick which hit Yagura's side. The impact of the kick was so hard that Yagura felt 2 of his ribs crack instantly as he flew several feet away. Mei rushing towards Yagura hoping to get another attack in soon rushed to the side as Yagura then threw a few kunai bombs at her. Soon the impact of kunai bombs hit the ground, causing both Mei and Yagura to get further away from the base. After several more minutes of fighting, both Mei and Yagura ended up near a lake. Mei knew the only way to get Yagura away from the base was to take him here. She had no choice but to take this gamble. Since she knew what tailed beast he held, he would have somewhat of advantage. But luckily for her, Yagura was too focused on her to realize that they weren't the only 2 on the battlefield. "I have you say that I'm captivated, Mei. You led me away so that your subordinates wouldn't get caught in our attacks, admirable. But have you forgotten I am a Jinchuriki? I have fast healing abilities as all Biju do. Also, have you forgotten that I have the advantage here as well? Why take me here knowing what tailed beast I have?" said Yagura in a respectful tone as he drew his staff-like weapon. Despite his cruel actions, he always acted in a kind, respectful manner. "Yagura, your reign is over, the terror of the Blood Mist village ends here," said Mei before charging while Yagura got into a battle-ready stance. He ducks under a kick from and attempts to sweep her legs out from under her with his staff. Mei jumps over the attack and counters with a falling axe kick. Yagura rolls out of the way and stabs at Mei. When she leans to the side as expected, he pulls back attempting to catch her with the hook, but Mei ducks, leading to a deadly exchange of martial arts and weapon blows. "I'm surprised you would face me alone, Mei. Maybe if you brought our Chijuro with you, you may have stood a chance," said Yagura as he parried a kick. "Whoever said I'm alone?" Mei responded with a smirk. Suddenly Yagura's instincts, honed by years of combat, alert him to a threat from behind. He turns just in time to see a barrage of kunai and shuriken and spins his staff to deflect as Mei jumps out of the way. "So, you brought help after all?" said Yagura curiously. As far as he knew, there wasn't anyone in the resistance who was powerful enough to help her face him. Unknown to him, the weapons were thrown by shadow clones. Naruto hiding with Fu in the trees at the left end of the clearing, Bean running through hand signs. "High release. Dragon flame bullet," heard Yagura as a voice called out a child. He asked himself as he stabbed his staff into the ground and ran through hand signs as a dragon of fire speeds towards him. "Water release. Water encampment wall." The gray-haired Jinchuriki shouted before a massive amount of water gushed out of his mouth, forming a wall and blocking the flames and covering part of the clearing with water. "Lava release. Melting apparition." A broad sheet of lava rises over the wall of water and falls over Yagura, who retrieves his staff and vanishes with a water body flicker. Yagura reappears on the other side of the battlefield and Fu wearing her hunter nin uniform and mask on charging with a water sword, intent on running him through from behind, only for him to deflect the blow with his staff. Yagura and Fu exchange a few blows before Yagura catches her sword with the staff's hook and disarm her. He slams the staff into her stomach with one hand, as the other he quickly tried to hit Fu's chin, causing her to lose her mask and stagger, and Yagura then moves to eviscerate her, only to be blocked by a chakra-enhanced kunai from Mei. Fu jumped back and forms another water blade before lunging back into the fray. I must say I'm surprised to see the Jinchuriki of the Seven Tails here. I heard you escaped from your village. I never thought I see you here. And Mei, I'm surprised at you. How could you bring one of my kind into this, said Yagura calmly before blocking a downward slash from Fu. First of all, I didn't escape from my village, I ran away. Secondly, you should know better than to underestimate someone because of their age. The ex-Taki nin said as she threw her mask on the ground, seeing as she didn't need it anymore. True. Yagura replied before pushing her back and spinning his staff to block another volley of kunai from Naruto's clones. Then show me what you're capable of, said Yagura. Fu then makes a cross-shaped hand sign. Shadow clone jutsu. And 10 clones of Fu all equipped with water swords appear and charge him. Normally, this would be nothing to Yagura, but with kunai coming from multiple directions now and Mei fighting alongside the clones, he was hard-pressed to counter their assault, though he still manages to destroy most of the clones. During one attack, Mei jumps back to mid-range and spits a glob of lava at Yagura, which he blocks with his staff. Yagura cursed as it melts the lower half of his weapon and jumped back before he heard a strange noise. Rasengan. Naruto slams the orb of chakra into Yagura's back, who almost immediately falls apart into water. Water clone. When did he? Naruto asked before the real Yagura rose from a puddle and caught Naruto, placing his ruined weapon's hook over his neck. Ah, you even brung the Kyuubi Jinchuriki into this as well, Mei. I must say I didn't expect this. You can take off that mask already. The Sanbi already told me it was you, said Yagura as Naruto then took off his mask and looked at Yagura. Do you know that there's a reward for capture Naruto Uzumaki? The Leaf Village is willing to pay any amount of money to have you back, said Yagura as he looked at Naruto for a moment. And you as well, Fu. It seems like Taki and Konoha have teamed up to find the two of you, he said as he then looked at Fu for a few moments. We could care less about that. And why would return there anyway, just so they could treat us like dirt? Hell, they didn't even treat us like humans, said Fu as she looked at Yagura. I agree with you. I lived the same hell as the two of you. I was treated like dirt, spit on and seen as a monster. The villagers called me all sorts of names while I was growing up as well. So when I became the Mizukage, I made sure the village knew my pain. I showed them what being a real monster could do, said Yagura as he made sure to keep an eye on both Naruto and Mei. But why shouldn't a Kage care for the village? Shouldn't the leader protect everyone in the village? You had everyone respect and you threw it all away for power. Just seeing how you really are makes you unfit to run a village, said Naruto as he threw a few more kunai at him. Yagura just turned his head slightly as the kunai passed him. Is that all you got? I would have expected better from you, said Yagura as he looked at Naruto. But when he looked at Naruto, he noticed a small smile across his face. Didn't Fu tell just you shouldn't underestimate us? Naruto grinned. Yagura's eyes widen as he hears the sizzling of explosive notes. The Naruto clone he is holding captive explodes. In seconds, Yagura jumps out of the cloud left by the explosion, only slightly singed. Mei spits more lava globs which he dodges, but he misses Fu, making hand signs. High release. Misty blaze dance. Fu inhales deeply and blows a large cloud of gas which is ignited by the lava. Yagura's eyes narrow and he grits his teeth as he holds up his arm to shield his face from the flames. Soon Naruto joins Fu and Mei as the fire starts to dies down, but once it does they see that Yagura is nowhere to be found. Mei, can you tell where he is? Asked Naruto. No. Mei responded, her brow furrowed as she wishes Ao was with them. Suddenly they felt the malevolent chakra of a Biju before a strange mist covers the battlefield. What is this, the hidden mist jutsu? Asked Fu as she looked around. No, this is Mei doesn't finish her statement as the three of them suddenly find themselves alone in darkness. With Naruto. As for Naruto, he suddenly found himself in the darkened streets of Konoha. He looked around the streets and sees the people of his former village staring at him with the glares he was all too familiar with. He hears them whisper, freak. Monster. Demon. He should just die. Maybe we should just kill him now. Instantly Naruto tried to escape the hurtful whispers as he ran, but he soon stopped when he saw Kakashi, Sakura, Neji and Iruka. All giving him the same glares just like all the villagers did. You failed me, Naruto. You swore you would bring Sasuke back. You told me it was a promise of a lifetime. You told me you would never go back on your word. But you failed me, Naruto. You let Sasuke get away from me. You really are a demon. I wish you just die already, said Sakura as Naruto looks in dreadfulness. Naruto tried to back away, trying not to hear anymore. But when he turned around there wasn't a street anymore, all there was darkness. Naruto then turned back around to see the image of Sakura was gone. Now all he saw was Kakashi standing there looking at him. I don't know why I even tried helping you, Naruto. I should have just left you at the village of the end. You made so many promises to people. You let down everyone who put their faith in you. You really are a disappointment, said Kakashi as Naruto then fell on his knees. No, you're lying. I tried to keep my promise. I tried to bring Sasuke back. He was my best friend, he was my rival. I didn't want to fail you. I tried my best, I really did, said Naruto as he felt like he was gonna cry. Naruto then looked up and saw a different image. This time it was Neji looking down on him. You swore you would become Hokage. You promised to change the Hyuga clan. I can't believe I trusted someone like you, said Neji as he looked at Naruto. Soon tears were falling down Naruto's face. He knew everything they said was true. He couldn't keep the promises he made. He couldn't save his best from the darkness. He failed Neji, Sakura and Kakashi. Naruto felt as his whole world was about to crumble. It wasn't till Naruto saw a new pair of feet as started to cry. Naruto then looked up to see Iruka looking at him. You let us all down, and then you just left. You abandoned everyone who cared about you, who put their faith in you. You are just a demon after all. I should have just let the villagers kill you. I don't know why I wasted my time with a piece of trash, said Iruka as Naruto felt the worst pain imaginable. But as for Fu, she found herself in a similar situation as Naruto. She found herself back at Takigakure. She was walking in the street trying to find her way home. But as she walked, many of the villagers shouted at her, calling her names. Demon whore monster, just die, no one wants you here. Soon Fu found herself running, trying to escape the hurtful whispers. But it seemed no matter how hard she ran, she could still hear the villagers. After several minutes of trying to escape, a figure soon stopped Fu in tracks as she saw Shibuki standing in front of her. Fu, how could you abandon the village, your duty to its people? Said Shibuki while glaring at the green-haired girl. Duty? The village treated me like trash my whole life. They took every opportunity to remind me that I wasn't welcome. Why should I be loyal to people who would rather see me dead? They even told me themselves it would have better if I was dead, yelled Fu. That does matter. You had the duty to protect the village no matter the cost. After everything the village has done for you. How could you leave us for your own selfish reasons, said Shibuki. Selfish? You call me selfish? I was forced to become a ninja. I was forced to obey you. No matter what I did, you and the village never treated me like I was human. You never cared what happened to me. All you people saw me as was a monster, said Fu as she pointed her finger at him. Yeah, that's right, it's what you are. You were born to be one thing and one thing only. A weapon for our village. Now come back to the and fulfill your purpose, said Shibuki in a demanding voice. I'll go back when I'm dead, said Fu as she felt like she was going to cry. You have no choice, you demon whore. If you don't come back willingly, we'll take you by force and extract the demon from you and put it inside someone else, said Shibuki as soon the people of the village surrounded her. While calling her names, Fu quickly looked around and saw that she was surrounded. She saw the figures getting closer and closer by every passing second. Fu tried to run but she could. She then fell to her knees as she started to cry for someone to help her. For someone to free her from this hell. Soon the figures of people started to close in on her. Fu was just about to be covered in darkness until release. Mei called out with her hands on Naruto and Fu, disrupting their chakra flow and snapping them out of the Jinjutsu. Soon Naruto and Fu both snapped out of it. They then both took a look at their surrounds and realized that the area was still covered in the dense mist. What kind of illusion was that? Asked Fu, still recovering. You were both placed under a unique illusion of the Sanbi. It's casted when he uses this mist. It draws up your most traumatic memories and greatest fears. This is one of the reasons why he was chosen to become the Mizukage. Because of this unique Jinjutsu and its effects it had on a person's mind. It was used to interrogate people. You two be careful, even I don't how many times he can use it, said Mei as she stayed on guard. Don't worry about that, Mei, I can only use this Jinjutsu a few times a day. But aside from that, I want to know why you two Jinchuriki are helping her. She doesn't understand our pain. She doesn't know how it feels to be a Jinchuriki. Why don't you join me and together we can call this miserable world that true pain really is. Just think about it, you both can't show Konoha and Taki the monsters they created. Show them just how it feels to have a real monster on the loose, said Yagura in a malevolent voice. Why would we join you? After seeing what you've done, no way in hell, said Naruto as he looked around but saw nothing but mist. He's right, what would we? You may be like us, but do you know how it feels to have something precious? After seeing all the damage you did to the base and all the people you tried to have killed, you're not fit to be a leader, said Fu as Mei looked at them both and smiled. Very well, I was hoping that someone like the two of you would understand, but I guess talking is useless. But don't say that I didn't, you give two a chance, said Yagura as he unleashed big burst of wind, causing the mist to blow away. Soon Mei, Naruto and Fu had to cover their eyes. After a few minutes they suddenly opened their eyes as they heard something moving towards them at an incredible speed. The three of dodged in different directions. The three of them then noticed what looked like a big crater where they were once standing. After several seconds, when the dust cleared, they saw Yagura standing in the center of the crater, cloaked in shroud of bubbling red chakra in the rough shape of a turtle with a single swishing tail, his canines and nails now long and sharp, and his eyes red and lacking pupils. Naruto and Fu create dozens of shadow clones which charge at Yagura as Mei fires globs of lava. Yagura easily dodges the lava and makes short work of the clones, his blows too powerful to defend against. His clock it's just like mine. Does he actually have full control of his Biju, thought Naruto as he watched Yagura attack. A few of the clones would manage to avoid his attacks. Naruto remembered back to his fight with Sasuke and how his demon fox cloak would extend to catch Sasuke whenever he managed to dodge. Yagura's cloak seemed to lack this ability. It's time I tested out Fox, you know what to do, said Naruto to Kyuubi. As he started to feel his chakra changes from his to the Kyuubi's. Now remember what I said, boy, the more of my power you use the more damage is done to your body, said Kurama as he gave his chakra to his container. Don't worry, I know, said Naruto as he remembered the conversation he had with Kurama a month ago. Flashback to a month ago. Naruto was at the training area where he had just gotten done with his sword training for the day, then decided since no one was around at the moment that it was time he learned how to call on the Kurama's chakra. He also didn't want Mei or the others that Naruto had actually become friends with him or that he knew his true name. He could already see Mei and the others asking him questions about it. Okay Fox, no one is here at the moment. So tell me already, what are you gonna teach me, said Naruto as he appeared in front of Kurama in his mind. Patience, boy, you will learn everything I have to teach you in due time. Anyways, for your first lesson, we're gonna have a little chat about what my power does for you and how it affects your body, said Kurama as he looked at his container. Why, I don't see the point. I'm normally okay when I use your power, so can't we just skip this lesson and move on to the next one, said Naruto. Listen. Boy, the only reason why your body was okay afterwards was because you only used half a tail at the most, but when you fought that stupid Ichiha, you went up to the first tail. And seeing as your body is too small to handle my power, your body was paying the price. Now shut up and listen for what I'm about to teach you. This will help you out in the long run, plus you won't have to worry about my chakra hurting your body. Now pay attention, said Kurama as Naruto gave him an annoyed look. Fine, but this better be a cool jutsu or something, said Naruto. Anyways, boy, from that last time we spoke I told you I was gonna add a bit more of my chakra into your reserve. Now as you already know, once you use my chakra your senses are sharper, you're faster and stronger. Now what I'm gonna teach is how to use that one-tailed state without the nasty effects it has on your body, said Kyuubi. So there's a way for me to use that from without feeling those burns, said Naruto, remembering the final strike that he and Sasuke did at the Valley of the End. Yes boy, there is. You see, when you use my power, boy, there are two things that happens to you. One is you become more beast-like and you become much stronger than you were before. But having that much power can have some effects like the burning you felt before you and the Uchiha clashed. Now what I'm about to teach is how to control that form's power. If you're able to control it completely, you won't have to worry about the burning any longer, you understand, boy, said Kurama as he looked at his container. Yeah, I understand, but you said other effects besides the burning. What are some other effects that it had? From what I remember, I was able to use the Rasengan with one hand, said Naruto a bit curiously. Well, that's the only effect the one-tailed state has, is the burning, but since we're working together, I can suppress that effect, so beware, said Kurama as he continued to explain. But I'm sure you remember the good effects it had on you when you were fighting, so I don't need to explain that, he said. No, I already know what I can do in that form. I remember most of that fight, so now that we got that out of the way, can you tell me how I'm supposed to call on that power, said Naruto as the Kyuubi started explaining how to call on his power. End of flashback. As Naruto started to call on Kurama's power, Yagura soon noticed that a dark red chakra similar to his started to form around Naruto's body. Yagura was a bit surprised at this because from the intel he had got from the Leaf Village, Naruto should have had this much control of the Kyuubi's chakra. After a few more minutes, Yagura, Mei and Fu saw Naruto in his one-tailed state. Everyone also noticed that his pupils had become slit like a fox's. As for Yagura, he was just about to attack when he saw the chakra itself stretched off of Naruto's arm and head right towards him. Yagura then quickly used his tail to try blocking the Kyuubi's chakra, but it was no use. The chakra then went in a zigzag motion and soon hit Yagura's side, forcing him to fly further into the water. As for Mei, she was surprised to see Naruto in his one-tailed form. She didn't even know how much control he had over his Biju's powers. And to see the surprised look on Yagura's face when he got hit with that chakra was even more shocking. When did he learn to do that? Mei and Chijuro never taught him that. Was it the Kyuubi? Thought Mei as she looked at Naruto for a few seconds before she saw Naruto running all fours towards where Yagura had flown by. I must say now this is interesting. It's been a while since I last fought another Jinchuriki. Show me what you can do, Naruto Uzumaki, said Yagura as he waited for Naruto to get a bit closer. Shortly after that, Yagura saw his chance as he used his tail to dodge an incoming strike from Naruto's arm and quickly form and fist and punched Naruto, causing to fly back from the impact. Yagura was just about to charge towards Naruto, but his instinct had kicked in, so he jumped back as he saw spitting clouds of lava heading towards him. After quickly dodging the lava, Yagura was just about to head towards Mei in hopes of finishing her off quickly. But suddenly Yagura heard, "High release. Flame bullet," said Naruto as he shot two fairly large flame bullets at Yagura. As for Yagura, not expecting him to use a fire technique, he only managed to do a few hand signs. Water release. Water encampment wall, said Yagura as a wall of water surround him, Naruto's flame bullets to disappear. But what Yagura didn't notice that had Naruto shortly used the fire release. Fire flower technique, which caused one of the 3 small bullets that followed the 2 large one had managed to barely graze him. Is this all you can do, Uzumaki? You really are a disappointment. I expected a lot better from the 9-tailed Jinchuriki, said Yagura as he removed the water wall technique and quickly charged towards Naruto. But before he got close enough to Naruto, Fu had underwent her own transformation into her initial Jinchuriki form and focused all her chakra to her legs and kicked Yagura on the side of his face, sending him fly further away from them. Damn it, I forgot about the 7-tailed Jinchuriki, thought Yagura. As Fu and Mei joined Naruto. Soon Fu did a few quick hand signs. Fire release. Running fire. Fu called out while Mei then began spits globs of lava at Yagura as he is surrounded by a ring of fire. When are you gonna realize by now it's useless, yelled Yagura as he quickly added his chakra to his feet and rushed towards them through the flames while dodging the lava along the way. However, when he exited the ring of fire, Yagura's eyes widened as he then saw Naruto forming what looked like a ball of chakra onto his right hand. Then how's this? Rasengan, said Naruto as he slammed the sphere of chakra, enhanced by the Kyuubi's power, into Yagura's stomach. The chakra cloak holds up against the sphere for but a moment before it meets his skin. Yagura cried out in pain as the Rasengan dogged into him for a few moments before he is sent flying across the battlefield, trough a few trees and out of sight. Soon Mei standing in the center, with Fu on the left and Naruto on her right. As for Naruto, he had his hand on the ground, all tense and ready to move at a moment's notice, not letting their guard down for a moment. You think we got him? Asked Naruto while still in his 1-tailed form. I doubt it, besides he was only in 1-tailed state. I'm sure this is just the beginning, replied Fu, while still in her initial Jinchuriki state. No, it's not over, I know, Yagura, no chance it's this easy, said Mei. Almost immediately, they sense a massive amount of chakra and see something rise from the forest. An enormous, turtle-like monster with a green spiked shell with 3 long shrimp-like tails, no hind legs and a closed right eye rise from the forest. That's Fu, gasped. A Sanbi? Naruto said, his eyes wide. Mei, who had expected this, narrows her eyes, then widens them in horror as the Sanbi opens its mouth and a ball of black chakra forms in front of its mouth. That's a tailed beast ball, we need to get out of the way now, said Mei as she seemed to almost panic. Though she was better off than the 2 Jinchuriki, they could all feel how powerful that chakra in the orb was and they all turn and flee at maximum speed. They get as far away as possible before the Sanbi fires the orb at the trio. But Ao and Chijuro swung his blade, the Hiramekure, in an arc, creating a hammer out of the chakra of the sword and sending several enemy ninja flying. Just as he was about to go help his comrades, he and everyone else in the area feel a massive wave of sinister chakra before suddenly finding themselves in the shadow of the Sanbi. The loyal Kirinin are elated and rebellious ninja horrified to see Yagura in his fully transformed state, even more so when they see him fire a tailed beast ball. Soon everyone felt a very burst of wind as they saw the tailed beast ball hit the land, causing some of the Kiri and rebellion ninja to stand their ground. Lady Terumi, Chijuro shouted, prepared to rush over and either aid or avenge their leader. Chijuro? Where are you going? Ao asked as he appeared next to him. We have to help Lady Terumi and the others, said Chijuro. She ordered us to stay here and help our comrades, besides she has Naruto and Fu with her. I'm sure they were able to dodge the blast, said Ao as he looked at Chijuro. But he relied. I can still feel her chakra and that of the Jinchurikis. I was right, they too have made it out of the blast. Now have faith in our leader. Now stop letting yourself get distracted. Be a man. Our allies need you, said Ao. Right, replied Chijuro as he and Ao went back to fighting Yagura's Sodders. Back with Naruto, Mei and Fu. Just outside of the path of destruction carved by the attack, Naruto now in his initial Jinchuriki form, because he used most of Kurama's chakra trying to dodge the blast, and as for Fu, she managed to stay in her initial form, and as for Mei, she had managed to dodge the blast as well. She was now hiding somewhere in the rubble. But while she stayed hidden, she tried to make a plan. As for Naruto and Fu, they were in awe of the power they had just witnessed. This was the first time they had seen the devastation the Biju were truly capable of. What was that? I've never seen anything like it before. Is that what we'll be able to do once we fully gain control over our Biju? Said Fu as she looked at Naruto. I'm not sure myself, that was the first time I've seen that. I didn't even know the tailed beast had that kind of technique, replied Naruto, wondering what kind of damage he could do if he learned that technique. After a few minutes they heard some rocks being moved out the way. Soon Mei came out of a small hole with a few starches on her. That is the tailed beast ball. That attack is the ultimate attack of the Biju. We have to make sure he doesn't use another one of those. If he does, he'll completely destroy the area, and us along with it, said Mei as she went towards Naruto and Fu. And continued to explain the tailed beast ball. It's a sphere of the Bijuu's chakra compressed in the Bijuu's mouth and fired at the enemy," said Mei as she felt like she was almost out of chakra. After a few minutes Naruto looked up and saw how big the Sanbi really was. Naruto knew there was only one thing that could defeat something that big. So Naruto bit his finger and made a quick hand sign. Both Mei and Fu then looked at Naruto for a moment with a surprised look on their faces. "What are you doing?" said Mei. "We need something that's just as big as he is, so I'm gonna summon the chef toad and ask him for help. At this point it's our only shot, we can't take him on when he's in that form," said Naruto as both Mei and Fu nodded in response. "Summoning jutsu?" Naruto called out as he slammed his palm to the ground. Unfortunately, or fortunately, time would tell, Naruto didn't account for his current form in the initial state or for the fact that his deal with Kurama had strengthened his chakra, so he actually overshot the amount necessary to summon Gamabunta and got two other, much smaller toads instead. Plus it turned Naruto back into his human form. As the smoke caused by the cleared, a pair of small elderly toads, a male and a female, as the three ninja looked down in shock and disbelief. "Huh? Where the hell are we?" said the male toad as he looked around and soon looked up and saw the figure of the Sanbi. "Ma, I think we were called in for battle against a Biju," said the male toad. "What? Who would be dumb enough to summon the two of us? I swear Jiraiya boy better not have, I wasn't even done making dinner," said the female toad. "Oh, don't be that way ma, they must have a good reason," the male replied. "I'll say," replied the female toad. "Hang on," Naruto exclaimed, unable to believe that he screwed up again. "What the hell? I try to summon the boss toad and get a grandpa and grandma," said Naruto as the two toads turned around and looked at Naruto. "Ah, it must have been you who summoned us, you must be Jiraiya boy's pupil then," said the male toad. "That boy looks like the Frau Hokage when he was a youngling, must be his son," he thought. "Boy, why do you call Jiraiya the Sannin boy?" asked Fu in a surprised voice. "Because compared to his he's still a boy and we're the one who training him in the sage arts," said the female toad. "Huh?" asked Naruto. "We're the head hermit toads and you there boy, you used too much charka to summon Gamabunta, what has that pervert been teaching you?" said the male toad. As both Mei and Fu looked at Naruto for a bit then at the two toads. "Wait. Did you just called one of the strongest ninja in the world a pervert?" said Mei, surprised to hear that the strongest of the Sannin was actually a pervert. "Look, the Preve sage isn't with me right now and you're saying you two are above the boss toad?" asked Naruto as his sentiments shared by Fu and Mei. "We'll save the introductions for later. For now, call me Shima and Pa here Fukasaku," the now named Shima said. "Okay, so what do you suggest old toads?" Naruto asked before being whacked by Shima. "Respect your elders," said Shima as Naruto rubbed a big lump on his head. "Calm down ma. Anyway, kiddo, that goes without saying you'll need something big. I'd say your best bet is collaboration jutsu," said Fukasaku. "Collaboration jutsu?" asked Fu coarsely. "Yes, it's when combining two different types of jutsu to enhance the effect," Mei explained. "Like combining your fire jutsu with wind jutsu, that would increase the power and intensify the flames," said Shima. "And you're lucky you summoned us boy, we're good at using wind jutsu," said Fukasaku. "Let's give it a try," said Naruto as he felt that he didn't have that much charka left. Soon him and Fu made the same hand sign. "Shadow clone jutsu," they both said in Yujin as they both made about 50 clones each. Instantly all 100 clones charged at Yagura. Fu clones had each made a water sword while Naruto's made the Rasengan. Soon Yagura could feel as all the clones jumped on his body and started to attack him. "When are you gonna realize that it's pointless? You cannot defeat me," said Yagura as he concentrated some of his charka for a few seconds before launched two power blasts of water. Soon almost half of the clones got destroyed instantly, but what Yagura didn't notice was that some of the clones had actually managed to penetrate his Bijuu's armor. After a few minutes the real Naruto and Fu along with Mei and the two elder toads had re-entered the battle. Mei then quickly used her lava release. Melting apparition and launched another sheet of lava into the air from the Yagura's left side, but Yagura easily it blew away with water. While the toads prepared their own techniques. High release. Toad flame bullet. The two elder toads called out as Fukasaku used toad oil bullet and Shima used sage art. Fire release stream. Creating a powerful conflagration on the Yagura's right side, unable to defend in time, he roars in pain as he is covered in the powerful flame and flails his arm in their direction, and the toads jump high to dodge. Using this opening, then the last of the Naruto clones slam a few Rasengans into Yagura's face, one in its right eye, causing it to cry out in pain again. "Well, the real. We can't defeat him like this. We need something bigger and way more powerful. Or something to at least distract him," said Shima as Naruto, Mei and Fu slightly agreed with her. Soon Fu had noticed that the Sanbi's right eye was closed and that his armor was slight penetrated. There she then came up with an idea. "Naruto, I have an idea, make a few clones and follow my lead," said Fu as she looked at Naruto for a moment as he then nodded his head in agreement. Naruto and Fu then ran towards the Sanbi and made the cross-shaped hand sign once again. "Shadow clone jutsu," they both said as they both made about 20 clones each. Soon the clones had all ran in pairs as they jumped on the Sanbi's armor. Soon the clones and the original Naruto and Fu took out a kunai bomb out of their pouches. They ran to the part where the armor was cracked and they threw the kunai bomb on it. Yagura then cried in pain as he felt some of his armor come off and leaving him defense. But just as Yagura was about to do another tailed beast ball, he then saw the original Naruto and Fu in front of his face. He quickly noticed that they both had a kunai bomb in their hand. But before he could react, both Naruto and Fu threw the kunai bomb at his other eye, causing Yagura immense pain as Naruto and Fu jumped off and joined Mei and the two elder toads.